The alley smelled like blood and rain. Lena's vision blurred as fingers tightened around her throat, slamming her against wet brick. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. This was how it would end, in the dark behind a restaurant dumpster while the city moved on without her. Then a voice cut through the chaos, cold and controlled. Let her go. She didn't know who he was. Didn't know that stepping into his world would change everything. But in that moment, between violence and salvation, Lena Carter made a choice that would rewrite her entire life. Stay with me until the end. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Hit that like button and let's begin. The night Lena Carter's life shattered for the second time began like any other, with exhaustion, stale coffee, and the weight of survival pressing down on her shoulders. She wiped down the last table at Marcello's, the upscale Italian restaurant where she'd worked double shifts for the past 3 months. Her feet ached in worn sneakers, and her lower back throbbed with that familiar burn that told her she'd been standing too long. Again. You heading out, Lena? Marco, the head chef, called from the kitchen doorway. His kind eyes crinkled with concern, the same look everyone gave her these days. Poor Lena. Struggling Lena. Broken Lena. She hated it. Yeah, just finishing up, she called back, forcing brightness into her voice that she didn't feel. See you tomorrow. Get home safe. If only it were that simple. Lena grabbed her jacket from the employee closet, checking her phone as she headed toward the back exit. One message from Mrs. Chen, her neighbor who watched Noah after school. He ate dinner. Fell asleep during homework again. Don't worry. But Lena always worried. That's what happened when you became a mother overnight to a traumatized 8-year-old who hadn't spoken in 6 months. The November air hit her like a slap as she pushed through the heavy metal door into the alley. The temperature had dropped since her shift started, and her thin jacket did nothing against the cold that seeped into her bones. She pulled it tighter, breath misting in front of her face as she hurried toward the main street. The alley behind Marcello's wasn't long, but it was dark. The street lamp at the far end had been broken for weeks, and the restaurant's security light had burnt out days ago. Lena had complained to Marco, who'd promised to call maintenance, but nothing had changed. She should have been more careful, should have waited inside, should have asked one of the line cooks to walk her out, should have, could have, would have. The story of her life. She was halfway through when she heard it, footsteps behind her, moving faster than hers. Heavy, deliberate. Lena's heart kicked into overdrive. She quickened her pace, fingers fumbling in her purse for her pepper spray. Where was it? Why could she never find anything in this damn bag? Lena? She froze. That voice. No, not here. Not now. Not after everything. Did you really think you could just disappear? She spun around and there he was, 6 months of peace shattered in an instant. Derek stood 10 feet away, backlit by the distant glow of the street. He looked different, thinner, harder, with wild eyes that spoke of desperation and something worse. Something unhinged. How did you find me? Her voice came out smaller than she wanted, weaker. He smiled, and it was all wrong. You think I wouldn't? You think you can just take what's mine and run? Noah isn't yours. He was never yours. Lena's hand finally closed around the pepper spray canister. The court said, fuck what the court said. Derek lunged forward, closing the distance between them in 3 strides. That kid is family, my brother's son. You had no right. Your brother is dead. The words ripped out of her. And you hurt him. You hurt both of us. I had every right to get us away from you. Derek's face twisted with rage. I gave you everything, a place to stay, money, protection, and you repaid me by stealing my nephew and filing a goddamn restraining order. You broke my arm. Lena's voice shook. You put me in the hospital twice. You threw a chair at Noah. He needed discipline. He needed safety. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not in front of him. Never again. Stay away from us, Derek. I mean it. If you come near us again, you'll what? He stepped closer, and Lena raised the pepper spray. Derek laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You think that's going to stop me? You think anything is going to stop me from getting back what's mine? He's not yours. Neither are you, Derek snarled, but that didn't stop me before. He moved faster than she anticipated. The pepper spray fell from her hand as he grabbed her wrist, twisting it behind her back with practiced cruelty. Pain shot up her arm, and Lena cried out, struggling against his grip. Let me go! Not until we talk. His breath was hot against her ear, reeking of alcohol and rage. Not until you understand that you don't get to just walk away from me. Derek, please. She tried to pull free, but he was stronger. He'd always been stronger. You're going to tell me where you're living. You're going to bring Noah to me this weekend. And you're going to drop that restraining order, or I swear to... Or what? Lena kicked backward, her heel connecting with his shin. He cursed, loosening his grip just enough for her to wrench free. She ran. 3 steps. That's all she got before he caught her again, this time by her hair. He yanked her backward with brutal force, and Lena's feet slipped on the wet pavement. She went down hard, her palms scraping against concrete as Derek dragged her into the deeper shadows. You think you can fight me? His voice was pure venom now. After everything I did for you, everything I gave you? You gave me bruises. Lena twisted onto her back, trying to see him in the darkness. You gave me nightmares. You gave Noah trauma he may never recover from. Derek's hand connected with her face, a sharp, stinging slap that made stars burst behind her eyes. Ungrateful bitch. She tasted blood, felt it on her lip, warm and metallic. This was it. This was how it would end. In a dark alley, alone, while Noah slept safely in Mrs. Chen's apartment, never knowing what happened to the aunt who'd promised to protect him. Derek's hands found her throat. Lena clawed at his fingers, fighting for air that wouldn't come. Her vision began to blur at the edges, darkening from the outside in. She could hear him talking, something about teaching her a lesson, about respect, about knowing her place. But the words were growing distant, muffled by the roaring in her ears. She was going to die. Then, light. Sudden and blinding, flooding the alley from somewhere behind Derek. Car headlights, she realized distantly. Someone had pulled into the alley. Derek's grip loosened slightly, his head turning toward the light. The fuck? Let her go. The voice was quiet, almost conversational, but something in it made Derek's hands fall away from Lena's throat completely. She gasped, dragging in air that burned her lungs, coughing violently as she rolled onto her side. Through watering eyes, she could make out shapes, Derek standing, backing away, and beyond him, a figure stepping out of the light. This is none of your business, Derek said, but the bravado was gone from his voice. He sounded uncertain now, almost afraid. You're in my alley. The man moved closer, and Lena could finally see him. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive coat that looked out of place in the grimy alley. His face was shadowed, but she could make out sharp features and dark eyes that seemed to assess everything in a single glance. Behind my restaurant, hurting someone on my property, that makes it very much my business. Your restaurant? Lena's mind struggled to process through the pain and fear. This man owned Marcello's. Look, man, this is just a domestic thing, Derek said, raising his hands placatingly. Me and my girl, just having a discussion. She's not your girl. The man's tone didn't change, but something in it made Derek flinch. And that wasn't a discussion. You don't know what you're talking about. I know what I saw. The man took another step forward, and 2 more figures emerged from the shadows behind him. Large men, silent and watchful. I saw you assault her. I heard her tell you to let her go. I watched you ignore her. Derek's eyes darted between the 3 men, calculating. Lena could see him weighing his options, his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. This isn't over, Derek said finally, pointing at Lena. You hear me? This isn't... Leave. 1 word. Quiet and absolute. Derek hesitated for only a moment before turning and running, his footsteps echoing off the alley walls until they faded into the night. Silence fell, broken only by Lena's ragged breathing. The man moved toward her slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. When he crouched down to her level, Lena finally got a clear look at his face. He was younger than she'd expected, mid-30s maybe, with dark hair and darker eyes that studied her with an intensity that should have been frightening but somehow wasn't. His features were sharp, aristocratic, handsome in a cold, untouchable way. This was a man used to control, to power. Are you hurt? He asked. Lena touched her throat where Derek's hands had been, already feeling the bruises forming. I've had worse. Something flickered across his face. Not quite emotion, but close. Can you stand? She nodded, not trusting her voice. When she tried to push herself up, pain lanced through her wrist, the one Derek had twisted. She must have made a sound because the man was suddenly there, his hand under her elbow, supporting her weight as she got to her feet. Careful! Up close she could smell his cologne, expensive, subtle, completely at odds with the violence that had just occurred. She could also see the details she'd missed before. The perfectly tailored suit under his coat, the watch that probably cost more than she made in a year, the ring on his right hand with a crest she didn't recognize. This wasn't just the restaurant owner. This was someone important, someone dangerous. Thank you, Lena managed, stepping back from his touch. I need to go. My nephew is waiting. That man will come back? I know. She'd known it since the moment Derek appeared. The restraining order was just paper. It didn't stop anything. You need protection, Lena laughed, a short, bitter sound. I need a lot of things. Protection isn't exactly in my budget. The man studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a business card. Simple, expensive, just a name and phone number. Adrienne Russo. Her blood went cold. She'd heard that name. Everyone who'd lived in the city for more than a month had heard that name. Adrienne Russo, the man who controlled half the construction contracts, who had politicians in his pocket, who made people disappear when they caused problems. Adrienne Russo, the crime boss. She started but couldn't finish. I'm someone who can keep you safe, he said simply. That man laid hands on you in my territory. That's an insult I don't tolerate. I can't. Lena backed away, shaking her head. I appreciate what you did, but I can't get involved with. You're already involved. His voice remained calm, almost gentle. The moment he attacked you here, you became my concern. The question is whether you're practical enough to accept help when it's offered. Help from you comes with strings. Everything comes with strings. Adrienne pocketed the card since she wouldn't take it. But my strings are transparent. Work for me. Let me protect you and your nephew. In return, you're under my umbrella. No one touches you. No one threatens you. No one hurts you again. Work for you doing what? What you're already doing, serving at the restaurant, being visible, reminding people that I protect what's mine. What's mine? The word sent a chill down her spine. I'm not yours, Lena said quietly. No, Adrienne agreed, but you could be under my protection. There's a difference. And if I say no? He shrugged slightly. Then you go home to your nephew, and you hope that man doesn't find you again before the police do. You hope the restraining order means something. You hope that next time someone else will be there to intervene. Lena's hands were shaking. She clenched them into fists, hating how weak she felt, how scared. I need to think about it. Of course, Adrienne gestured to one of his men. Marcus will drive you home. It's late. I can take the bus. You're bleeding and limping. Let Marcus drive you. It wasn't really a request, Lena realized. This was what Adrienne Russo did. He gave orders disguised as suggestions, and people followed them because the alternative was worse. She was too tired to argue. The drive home was silent. Marcus, a mountain of a man who probably served as muscle when needed, drove with surprising care through the late-night streets. Lena watched the city pass by through the window, her mind racing. Adrienne Russo had offered her protection. Protection she desperately needed but couldn't possibly accept, because men like Adrienne Russo didn't do anything for free. And whatever price he'd eventually demand would be far higher than she could afford to pay. But what choice did she have? Derek had found her. Despite changing her phone number, despite moving 3 times in 6 months, despite being so careful, he'd found her. And he'd come at night when she was alone and vulnerable in a dark alley where no one would see, except someone had seen. We're here, Marcus said, pulling up in front of her building. It was a rundown apartment complex in a neighborhood that hovered somewhere between working class and poverty. Not the worst area in the city, but far from the best. Thank you, Lena said, reaching for the door handle. Miss Carter? Marcus's voice stopped her. When she turned back, he was holding out a phone, sleek, new, definitely not hers. Mr. Russo wanted you to have this. It's secure. His number is already programmed in. If you need anything, or if that man comes back, you call him. Lena stared at the phone like it was a snake. I didn't agree to anything. No. Marcus agreed. But Mr. Russo takes care of his people. Whether you've agreed or not, you're under his watch now. That man threatened you on his property. That makes this personal. She took the phone because refusing seemed pointless. Marcus would just leave it anyway. Her apartment was on the 3rd floor, upstairs that creaked with every step. Mrs. Chen opened her door as Lena approached, concern written across her weathered face. "You're late," the elderly woman said. "I was getting worried." "I'm sorry. There was trouble at work." Not quite a lie. Mrs. Chen's eyes narrowed, taking in Lena's disheveled appearance, the bruises forming on her throat. "What kind of trouble?" "The kind that's handled now." Lena hoped that was true. "Is Noah asleep?" "Like a stone. That boy exhausts himself trying to stay awake for you." Mrs. Chen's expression softened. "You're a good aunt, Lena. His parents would be proud." The words hit harder than they should have. Noah's parents, Lena's sister Sarah and her husband Marcus, had died in a car accident 8 months ago. Sudden, brutal, final. One moment, Lena had a sister she called twice a week, and the next she was signing custody papers for a nephew she barely knew. And Derek, Sarah's brother-in-law, Marcus's brother, had swooped in immediately, claiming family rights, claiming he should raise Noah. Never mind that he'd never shown interest in the boy before. Never mind that he'd always been violent, volatile, controlling. The court had sided with Lena. Barely. And Derek had made her pay for it every day since. "Thank you for watching him," Lena said, fishing money out of her purse. Mrs. Chen waved it away like she always did. "Keep it! Buy that boy some new shoes. His are getting too small." Inside her apartment, Lena locked the door and threw the deadbolt. Then she added the chain. Then she checked all the windows, making sure they were locked, that the cheap security bars were in place. Noah was asleep in the small bedroom they shared, curled up on his twin bed with his stuffed elephant clutched to his chest. In sleep, he looked peaceful, almost normal. It was only when he was awake that you could see the damage. The way he flinched at loud noises, the way he watched doorways like he expected something terrible to come through them, the way he hadn't spoken a single word since his parents died. The therapist said it was selective mutism brought on by trauma. She said Noah would speak again when he felt safe enough. But how could Lena make him feel safe when she couldn't even keep herself safe? She sat on the edge of his bed, smoothing back his dark hair. He looked so much like Sarah, it hurt. "I'll protect you," she whispered. "I promise. Whatever it takes." The phone Marcus had given her sat heavy in her pocket. Whatever it takes. The next 3 days passed in tense anticipation. Lena worked her shifts at Marcello's, hyper-aware of every shadow, every customer who looked at her too long. She walked Noah to school and picked him up personally, even though it meant arriving late to work and leaving early. She slept in fits and starts, waking at every sound. Derek didn't return, but the fear did. She saw Adrian only once, through the kitchen door, speaking with Marco in low tones. He'd glanced up, catching her eye for just a moment, and the weight of that gaze had made her look away. The phone stayed in her purse, unused. She hadn't called him, hadn't texted, hadn't acknowledged the offer that hung between them like a blade. On the 4th day, Derek came to Noah's school. Lena got the call during her lunch break. The principal, Mrs. Davidson, sounded carefully calm in the way people did when they were trying not to panic. "Miss Carter, there's been an incident. A man claiming to be Noah's uncle attempted to sign him out of school today. We refused, of course, given the custody documents you provided. But he became quite agitated. We've called the police, but I thought you should know immediately." Lena was already running. She made it to the school in 15 minutes, bursting through the doors to find Mrs. Davidson waiting in the office with a police officer. Noah sat in a chair nearby, small and silent, his eyes huge in his pale face. "He's fine," Mrs. Davidson said quickly. "The man never got close to him. Our security procedures worked exactly as they should." "Where is he?" Lena demanded, kneeling in front of Noah and checking him over even though she could see he was physically unharmed. "Where's Derek?" "Gone by the time we arrived," the officer said. "He was young, looked barely old enough to shave. But we have his description, and we've added this incident to the restraining order file. If he comes back..." "If he comes back, what?" Lena stood, fury overriding fear for the first time in months. "You'll arrest him." "How long will he stay locked up? A day? 2? And then what? He comes after us again? Ma'am, I understand your frustration. No, you don't. Her voice was shaking. You don't understand what it's like to run and never be far enough, to change your number and your address and your routine and have it mean nothing because he always finds you. You don't understand. Her voice broke. Noah's small hand slipped into hers, squeezing tight. She couldn't do this. Couldn't keep living like this. Couldn't keep putting Noah through this. That night, after Noah was asleep and the apartment was locked down tight, Lena took out the phone Adrian had given her. She stared at it for a long time. This was a line she couldn't uncross. She knew that. Knew that once she called Adrian Russo, once she accepted his protection, she would be stepping into a world she'd spent her whole life avoiding. A world of violence and power and moral compromises. But wasn't she already living in violence? Wasn't Derek's abuse just as brutal, just as dangerous? At least with Adrian, she'd know what she was getting into. At least with Adrian, she might actually be safe. Her finger hovered over the call button. Whatever it takes, she'd promised Noah. She pressed dial. He answered on the second ring. Miss Carter. He went to Noah's school today. The words tumbled out. Derek. He tried to take him. The police came, but he was already gone, and they won't. I know, Adrian said calmly. I have someone watching the school. You and your nephew were never in danger. Lena went still. You're watching us? I told you, you were under my protection whether you accepted it or not. She should have been angry, should have been frightened. Instead, she felt something close to relief. I'm accepting it now, she said quietly. Whatever your terms are, whatever you want from me, I'm accepting. Good. No gloating in his voice, no triumph, just simple acknowledgement. Pack a bag for yourself and Noah, enough for a week. Marcus will pick you up in an hour. Where are we going? Somewhere Derek can't reach you, somewhere you'll be safe while I handle this situation. Handle it how? Silence. Then, do you really want to know? No. Yes. She didn't know. Will he? She paused. Will anyone get hurt? He's already hurt people. Adrian's voice was matter of fact. He hurt you. He terrorized your nephew. He violated a court order and attempted kidnapping. I'm simply going to make sure he understands that those actions have consequences. Consequences. Such a clean word for something she suspected would be very, very messy. I need your word, Lena said, that Noah will be safe, that this won't blow back on him. You have it. I protect what's mine, Miss Carter. And as of this moment, you and Noah are under my protection. That makes you mine. There was that word again. Mine. Possessive and absolute, but also somehow reassuring. 1 hour, Adrian said. Be ready. The line went dead. Lena stood in her tiny kitchen, phone still pressed to her ear, and wondered what she'd just done. Then she went to pack. Noah woke when she started pulling clothes from their shared dresser. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, watching her with that too-old expression he'd worn since the accident. We're going somewhere safe, Lena told him, keeping her voice gentle. Just for a little while. Just until things settle down. He didn't ask where. Didn't ask why. He just climbed out of bed and started helping her pack, moving with the quiet efficiency of a child who'd learned that sometimes you just had to run. It broke her heart. 50 minutes later, there was a knock at the door, 3 solid raps. Lena checked through the peephole. Marcus stood in the hallway, patient and immovable. She opened the door. Ready? He asked. As I'll ever be. Marcus took their bags without a word, leading them down to a car that definitely hadn't been there an hour ago. Black, expensive, windows tinted so dark they looked like mirrors. Noah climbed into the back seat without hesitation, his hand still gripping Lena's. She slid in beside him, and Marcus closed the door with a solid thunk that sounded like a vault ceiling. They drove north, out of the city, into suburbs that grew progressively wealthier. The buildings changed from apartments to houses to estates, each one larger and more impressive than the last. Finally, Marcus turned onto a private road marked only by a discreet sign. Private property. No trespassing. The road wound through woods for nearly a mile before opening up to reveal a house that made Lena's breath catch. Not a house. An estate. Stone and glass and old money sprawling across manicured grounds lit by subtle landscape lighting. It looked like something out of a magazine, the kind of place where powerful people made decisions that changed lives. The kind of place that belonged to men like Adrian Russo. Marcus pulled up to the front entrance. Before Lena could reach for the door handle, it was opening, and there stood Adrian himself. He'd traded the expensive suit for dark slacks and a charcoal sweater that somehow made him look even more dangerous. His eyes went to Noah first, assessing, then to Lena. "Welcome," he said simply. Noah's hand tightened in Lena's. She squeezed back, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. "It's okay," she whispered to him. "We're safe here." She hoped that was true. Adrian stepped back, gesturing them inside. "I'll show you to your rooms. We can discuss details once you're settled." The interior was exactly what Lena expected. High ceilings, expensive art, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. But there was something else too. Something warmer. Books on shelves, a jacket thrown over a chair, a coffee mug sitting on a side table. Someone actually lived here. It wasn't just a showpiece. Adrian led them upstairs to a hallway lined with doors. He opened one to reveal a bedroom that was bigger than Lena's entire apartment, decorated in soft blues and grays, with a bed that could sleep four and windows that overlooked the grounds. "This is yours," Adrian said to Lena. Then he moved to the next door. "And this is for Noah." The second bedroom was smaller but no less impressive, and someone had clearly prepared it for a child. There were books on the shelf, toys in a basket, even a stuffed animal sitting on the bed. Noah's eyes went wide. "I had my assistant make some guesses about what an 8-year-old might like," Adrian said. "If she guessed wrong, we can get whatever you prefer." It was such a normal thing to say, so thoughtful, so completely at odds with everything Lena knew about Adrian Russo. "Thank you," she managed. Adrian nodded. "There are clothes in the closets. Again, my assistant's choices, but we can adjust. Dinner will be ready in an hour. The kitchen is downstairs, second door on the left. Make yourselves at home." He turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing. There are security personnel on the grounds. You're safe here, but don't be alarmed if you see them. They're here to protect you, nothing more." "How many?" Lena asked. "Enough." Adrian's expression didn't change. "Derek won't get within a mile of this house. I guarantee it." After he left, Lena and Noah stood in the hallway, staring at the 2 bedrooms that were now theirs. "What do you think?" Lena asked quietly. Noah looked up at her, then at the bedrooms, then back at her. He didn't speak. He never did. But he pointed at the toys and raised his eyebrows in a question. "Yes," Lena said, understanding. "They're for you. You can play with them." He disappeared into his room immediately, heading straight for the bookshelf. Lena watched him go, then sank onto her own bed, springs so soft she felt like she might sink into them forever. What had she done? She'd made a deal with the devil. That's what she'd done. Traded one form of danger for another, all in the name of keeping Noah safe. But as she sat there in a bedroom that probably cost more than she'd make in 5 years, listening to Noah quietly explore his new room, she couldn't quite bring herself to regret it. For the first time in 8 months, her nephew sounded almost content. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Lena felt something that might have been hope, even if it came wrapped in the dark promise of Adrian Russo's protection. Lena woke to sunlight streaming through windows she didn't recognize, in a bed too soft to be her own. For a disoriented moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then memory crashed back. Derek at the school, the phone call, Marcus driving them through the night to this place. Adrian Russo's estate. She sat up, heart pounding, and immediately looked toward the door connecting her room to Noah's. It was slightly ajar, the way she'd left it last night so she could hear him if he needed her. The clock on the nightstand read 7:47 a.m. Later than she usually slept, but exhaustion had finally caught up with her somewhere around 3 in the morning, after she'd spent hours lying awake, listening to unfamiliar sounds and wondering what price she'd ultimately pay for this sanctuary. Lena pushed back covers that probably cost more than her monthly rent and padded to Noah's room. He was still asleep, curled around the new stuffed bear someone had left on his bed. In the morning light, she could see the room more clearly. Walls painted a soft gray-blue, shelves lined with books arranged by height, a desk by the window with art supplies neatly organized in containers. Someone had put thought into this. Real thought. Not just thrown money at the problem, but actually considered what a traumatized 8-year-old might need. She didn't know what to do with that information. A soft knock at her bedroom door made her jump. She hurried back, grabbing a robe that had been laid out on a chair, silk, expensive, definitely not hers, and cracked the door open. A woman in her 50s stood in the hallway, dressed professionally but warmly, with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. "Miss Carter, I'm sorry to disturb you. I'm Elena, Mr. Russo's house manager. I wanted to let you know that breakfast is available whenever you're ready. There's no rush. You and Noah can come down when it suits you." House manager. Of course, a place like this had a house manager. "Thank you," Lena managed. "We'll be down soon. Take your time. And if there's anything you need, anything at all, please don't hesitate to ask." Elena's smile was genuine. "Mr. Russo has made it very clear that you and your nephew are to be made comfortable." After Elena left, Lena stood for a moment, processing. This was her life now, at least temporarily. Silk robes and house managers, and a man who commanded enough power that people moved when he spoke. She found clothes in the closet, just as Adrian had promised. Jeans that fit perfectly, soft sweaters and neutrals. Even undergarments in her exact size. The accuracy was unsettling. How much did Adrian Russo know about her? Noah woke as she was getting dressed, his dark eyes watching her from his doorway. He was still in the pajamas he'd worn last night, his own, at least. Some small piece of normalcy in all this strangeness. "Good morning, baby," Lena said softly. "Did you sleep okay?" He nodded, then pointed downstairs with a questioning look. "We're going to get breakfast. The lady who manages this house said it's ready whenever we want." She moved to his closet, finding it stocked with clothes in his size. "Want to pick something to wear?" Together they chose jeans and a blue sweater. Noah changed himself. He'd grown fiercely independent since the accident, needing to control the few things he could, and then took Lena's hand as they ventured into the hallway. The house was different in daylight, no less impressive but less intimidating. Morning sun poured through tall windows, warming hardwood floors and making the artwork glow. Lena could hear distant sounds, voices, movement, the clatter of dishes that suggested life beyond the quiet luxury. They found the kitchen by following the smell of coffee and bacon. It was enormous, all marble countertops and professional-grade appliances, with a breakfast nook that overlooked gardens she hadn't seen in the dark. Adrian sat at the table reading a newspaper, an actual physical newspaper with a cup of coffee at his elbow. He looked up as they entered, his expression neutral. "Good morning," he said. "I hope you slept well." "We did." "Thank you." Lena's voice came out more formal than she intended. "How did you talk to a man who'd saved your life and then brought you to his home? What was the protocol?" "Elena mentioned breakfast," she added. "Help yourself." Adrian gestured to a sideboard laden with food. "Or tell Elena what you'd prefer and she'll make it." It was too much. The spread looked like it could feed a dozen people. Eggs, bacon, sausage, fresh fruit, pastries, yogurt, cereals. Lena took a plate and put small portions of scrambled eggs and fruit on it, then made one for Noah with the things she knew he'd eat. They sat at the far end of the table, maintaining distance. Adrian continued reading his paper, giving them space. But Lena could feel his awareness. He was the kind of man who noticed everything, even when he seemed focused elsewhere. Noah ate slowly, his eyes darting between the food and Adrian and the windows. Cataloging exits, Lena realized with a pang. Her nephew had learned to always know the way out. "There's a room upstairs," Adrian said after a few minutes, not looking up from his paper. "Third floor, end of the hall. It has art supplies, books, some games. Noah is welcome to use it whenever he likes." Lena blinked. "That's very kind, but we don't want to impose." "It's not an imposition. The room exists. It might as well be used." He turned a page. "There's also grounds to explore, if you'd like. The gardens are safe, and there's a path through the woods that leads to a pond." "Why?" The question slipped out before Lena could stop it. This time Adrian did look up, meeting her eyes directly. "Why what?" "Why are you doing this? The rooms, the clothes, the food, all of it. What do you want from us?" "I told you what I want. I want you to work at the restaurant, be visible, show people that those under my protection are taken care of." His tone was matter-of-fact. "And I want Derek to understand that touching you again means dealing with me. That's all. That's all." Something flickered in his dark eyes. What else did you think I wanted, Miss Carter? Heat crept up her neck. She didn't know. That was the problem. Men like Adrian Russo didn't do favors without expecting something in return, but she couldn't figure out his angle. I don't know, she admitted. That's what scares me. Fear is smart, but it's also exhausting. Adrian folded his newspaper and stood. I have business to attend to today. You and Noah should settle in, explore the house, rest. Marcus will be nearby if you need anything. Tomorrow we'll discuss logistics, your schedule at the restaurant, Noah's school arrangements, security protocols. School? Lena's chest tightened. He can't go back to his old school. Derek knows where it is. I'm aware. I've made arrangements with a private academy 20 minutes from here. Small classes, excellent security, and they're experienced with children who have experienced trauma. Adrian paused at the doorway. They're also accustomed to discretion. No one will know Noah is there except the people who need to know. Private academy. Of course, because that was the world Adrian lived in, where problems were solved with money and influence. I can't afford, Lena started. You're not paying for it. Consider it part of the protection package. He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather. Noah needs stability and safety. This provides both. Before Lena could respond, he was gone, his footsteps fading down the hallway. She looked at Noah, who was watching her with those two knowing eyes. I don't understand him, she said quietly. Do you? Noah shook his head, but he didn't look scared anymore, just thoughtful. They spent the morning exploring. The house was even bigger than Lena had realized, 5 bedrooms upstairs, plus the playroom Adrian had mentioned, which turned out to be a child's paradise. Art easels and supplies, building blocks, board games, even a reading nook with cushions and a window seat. Noah gravitated immediately to the art supplies, running his fingers over pristine markers and fresh paper. He looked at Lena questioningly. Yes, you can use them. Mr. Russo said so. She still couldn't quite bring herself to call him Adrian, even in her head. It felt too familiar, too presumptuous. While Noah drew, violent scribbles of black and red that Lena knew were his way of processing trauma, she wandered to the windows. The ground stretched out below, meticulously maintained. She could see a man in a dark suit walking the perimeter. Security, she realized. One of the people Adrian had mentioned. How many were there? How much danger did he really think they were in? Or was this just how he lived, constantly guarded, constantly vigilant, always prepared for threats? Her phone buzzed. The new one, not her old one. A text from an unknown number. Derek violated his restraining order yesterday. Police picked him up this morning. He'll be held for 72 hours minimum. A.R. Adrian. Of course he'd have her number. He'd probably had someone program it into the phone before Marcus gave it to her. Lena stared at the message, trying to process what it meant. Derek was in custody, for 3 days, at least. He couldn't hurt them. 3 days of breathing room. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. Thank you, she typed back. The response came immediately. He won't bother you again after this. I'm making sure of it. That should have comforted her. Instead, it raised questions she wasn't sure she wanted answered. How exactly was Adrian making sure of it? What did a man like him do to someone who'd become a problem? She pocketed the phone and returned to Noah, who'd moved from violent scribbles to something more controlled. He was drawing a house. Their apartment, she realized. Small and cramped and familiar. Do you miss it? Lena asked, sitting beside him. He nodded. Then he drew another house next to the first one. This one was bigger, with more windows. He added trees and what might have been a pond. Is that here? Another nod. Do you like it here? Noah's hand hesitated over the paper. Then he drew a stick figure next to the small house, a man, tall and angular, with an angry slash for a mouth. Derek. And next to the big house, he drew 2 figures, one small, one taller, himself and Lena. Safe inside. Her throat tightened. Yeah, baby. We're safe here. For now, at least. Lunch appeared as if by magic, Elena bringing sandwiches and soup to the playroom, setting them on a small table with quiet efficiency. Lena tried to thank her, but the woman waved it off. It's my job, dear, and my pleasure. It's been a long time since this house had a child in it. That caught Lena's attention. Mr. Russo has children? Oh, no. Elena's expression shifted, becoming carefully neutral. But he was a child here once. This was his family's home. Was past tense. Lena wanted to ask more, but Elena was already leaving, and prying into Adrian's history felt dangerous. The afternoon stretched long and quiet. Noah drew more pictures, some dark, some lighter. Lena found a book on the shelf and tried to read, but couldn't focus. Her mind kept circling back to Derek in a cell, to Adrian's promise, to the weight of obligation settling over her shoulders. Around 4, Marcus appeared in the doorway. "Miss Carter, Mr. Russo asked me to show you the security features of the house, so you know how to stay safe." Right. Because this was a fortress, not just a home. She left Noah with his art and followed Marcus through the house. He showed her the panic buttons hidden in every room, the reinforced doors, the security cameras covering every angle of the property, the safe room in the basement stocked with supplies, the emergency exit routes. "How often do you use these?" Lena asked as Marcus demonstrated the fingerprint scanner on the safe room door. "Rarely. Mr. Russo prefers prevention to reaction, but it's better to have them and not need them." "Has anyone ever gotten in? Past all this security?" Marcus's expression went flat. "Once, 5 years ago. They didn't leave." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. "I see," Lena managed. "Mr. Russo takes protection seriously," Marcus continued, leading her back upstairs. "The people under his care don't get hurt. Not twice." Not twice. Meaning once was forgivable, an oversight, a gap in security. But a second time? That was unacceptable. Lena thought about Derek's hands around her throat, the terror in Noah's eyes when his uncle showed up at school. How many times had they been hurt? How many times had she told herself it would be the last, only to have Derek find them again? "Can I ask you something?" she said as they reached the main floor. Marcus nodded. "Why does he care?" "Really? I'm nobody. Noah's nobody. Why go through all this trouble?" "You're not nobody. You're someone who was hurt on his property, under his watch. That makes it personal." Marcus paused, considering. "And the boy reminds him of someone, I think." "Who?" "That's not my story to tell." Marcus's tone made it clear the conversation was over. "Dinner's at 7. Mr. Russo will be joining you." The thought of sitting through dinner with Adrian made Lena's stomach twist with anxiety. What did you talk about with a crime boss? How did you make small talk with a man who could make people disappear? She spent the next 2 hours helping Noah clean up the playroom and getting him ready for dinner. She changed into a simple dress she found in the closet, dark blue, modest, appropriate. Armor of a different kind. They made their way to the dining room at 7 exactly, finding Adrian already there. He'd changed too, trading the casual sweater for a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked relaxed, comfortable in his own space. "Please sit," he said, gesturing to the chairs near his end of the table. Elena served dinner. Roasted chicken, vegetables, potatoes cooked in herbs Lena couldn't name. It smelled incredible and tasted better. Noah ate steadily, his shoulders gradually losing their tension as the meal progressed without incident. "How was your day?" Adrian asked, directing the question to Noah. The boy looked startled that someone was addressing him directly. He glanced at Lena, uncertain. "Noah doesn't talk," Lena said quietly. Not for a while now. "I'm aware." Adrian's expression didn't change. "But that doesn't mean he can't communicate, or that his thoughts don't matter." He looked at Noah again. "Did you find the playroom adequate?" Noah nodded, then reached for his napkin. He hesitated, looking at Lena again. She gave a small nod of permission, and he spread the napkin on the table, using his fork to draw in the condensation from his water glass. A picture emerged. Simple stick figures. Himself, Lena, and another taller figure. They were all standing together, but not touching. Safe, but separate. Adrian studied it for a long moment. "I'm glad you feel secure here. That's important." Noah's eyes widened slightly, surprised at being understood. "My assistant tells me you're enrolled at Riverside Academy starting Monday," Adrian continued, speaking in the same calm tone. "Small classes, good teachers. They have an excellent art program if that interests you." This time Noah looked at Lena, excitement breaking through his usual guardedness. "Art program?" Lena said. "We'll make sure you have everything you need. Dinner continued with surprisingly easy conversation, or as easy as it could be when one person didn't speak and another was a crime boss. Adrian asked about Noah's interests, his favorite subjects from his old school, what books he liked. Lena answered when Noah couldn't, but increasingly the boy found ways to communicate. Nods, shakes of his head, drawings in the condensation. It was almost normal, disturbingly so. After dinner, Adrian walked them back to their rooms. I'll be traveling tomorrow, he said. Business in the city. Marcus will be here and Elena. You'll be completely safe. The business you mentioned, Lena started carefully. Is it about Derek? Among other things. Adrian stopped at her door. You don't need to worry about him anymore, Miss Carter. I've made arrangements. What kind of arrangements? His dark eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw something cold in them, something that reminded her exactly who she was dealing with. The kind that ensure he understands the consequences of his actions, the kind that makes certain he never touches you or Noah again. His voice was soft but absolute. You asked me to protect you. This is what protection looks like. Lena's mouth went dry. You're going to hurt him. I'm going to make sure he can't hurt you. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. No hesitation, no doubt. He made his choices. Now he lives with the consequences. Noah's hand tightened in Lena's. She looked down to find him watching Adrian with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not fear, something else. Something that looked almost like trust. We should get you to bed, Lena said to Noah, needing to end this conversation before it went further. Adrian nodded. Sleep well, both of you. He disappeared down the hallway, leaving Lena standing with Noah, trying to process what had just happened, what she'd tacitly agreed to by accepting Adrian's protection. That night, after Noah was asleep, Lena stood at her window looking out over the grounds. She could see security personnel moving in the darkness, silent guardians keeping watch. She thought about Derek in a cell, about Adrian's cold eyes, about the line she'd crossed when she called that number. She'd made a deal with a dangerous man, had traded one form of violence for another. But as she watched Noah sleep peacefully for the first time in months, she couldn't bring herself to regret it. Whatever Adrian Russo did to Derek, whatever consequences he enforced, Lena would live with it, because Noah was safe. And right now, that was all that mattered. The next morning, Adrian was gone before they woke. Marcus drove Noah to Riverside Academy for his orientation, and Lena spent the day at the restaurant, returning to work under the watchful eyes of Marco and the other staff, who definitely knew something had changed. They treated her differently now, more carefully, with more respect, because she was under Adrian Russo's protection, and everyone knew what that meant. When her shift ended, Marcus was waiting, not in the alley, she'd never use that entrance again, but out front, in a car that screamed money and power. How was Noah's first day? She asked as they drove. Good. The teachers say he's bright, engaged. They have a therapist on staff who will start working with him next week. Of course they did. Adrian had thought of everything. They arrived back at the estate to find Noah in the playroom, surrounded by art supplies, and looking more animated than Lena had seen him in months. Elena stood nearby, smiling. He's been drawing all afternoon, she said. Such talent for one so young. Lena moved to see what Noah had created. Her breath caught. Pictures covered the table. Not the violent scribbles from before, but real scenes. The estate, the gardens, Marcus, Elena, and in several of them, a tall figure standing watch, always in the background, always vigilant, Adrian. You like him? Lena said softly to Noah. Her nephew nodded, then pointed to one picture in particular. It showed the three of them, Noah, Lena, and Adrian, standing together. Not separate anymore, like in the earlier drawing. Together. Baby, I don't know if that's... Lena started, but stopped. What was she going to say? That they couldn't get attached? That this was temporary? That Adrian Russo wasn't the kind of man you built a family with? But Noah was already attached. She could see it in every careful line he'd drawn, in the way he'd placed Adrian between them and the dark edges of the paper. Protection made visible. That evening, Adrian returned. Lena heard his car on the gravel drive, heard the front door open and close. She waited in her room, wondering if he'd seek her out, if he'd tell her what he'd done. He didn't. But the next morning, Marcus handed her a newspaper over breakfast. She opened it to find a small article buried on page 7. Local man accepts plea deal in assault case. Derek's name jumped out at her from the text. He'd pleaded guilty to assault, violation of a restraining order, and attempted kidnapping. The sentence, 3 years in prison, followed by mandatory counseling and a permanent restraining order. No possibility of parole. 3 years. Not forever, but enough time to breathe. Enough time for Noah to heal. Enough time to figure out their next move. Mr. Russo thought you'd want to know, Marcus said quietly. Lena's hand shook as she set down the paper. How did he? The evidence was compelling, and the prosecutor was motivated. Marcus's expression gave nothing away. Sometimes justice needs a push in the right direction. Justice, or Adrian's version of it. She should have felt relieved. She did feel relieved. But underneath was something more complicated. Gratitude mixed with unease. Safety purchased with power she didn't fully understand. Where is he? Lena asked. Adrian? In his office. 3rd door on the right, if you want to speak with him. She did. She didn't. She had to. Lena found the office exactly where Marcus said. The door was open, revealing a room lined with books and filled with dark wood furniture. Adrian sat behind a massive desk, reading something on his computer. He looked up as she entered. Miss Carter. It's Lena. The words came out before she could think better of them. You've done all this for us. You should call me Lena. Something shifted in his expression. Then you should call me Adrian. Okay? She moved further into the room, nerves making her hands fidget with the hem of her sweater. I saw the newspaper, and I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't seem like enough for... She gestured helplessly. For all of this. You don't owe me thanks. You owe me your presence at the restaurant, your cooperation with security protocols, and your discretion about what you see and hear. Adrian leaned back in his chair. That's the arrangement. Is it? Lena found herself moving closer, drawn by something she couldn't name. Because it feels like more than that. The school, the clothes, the way you talk to Noah. That's not just business. No, Adrian agreed quietly. It's not. Then what is it? He was silent for a long moment, studying her with those dark, unreadable eyes. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower, more raw than she'd heard it before. I was 8 when my father was killed. Shot in the street by a rival family, in front of my mother and me. The words were matter of fact, but Lena could hear the old pain beneath them. I stopped talking for a year afterward. Couldn't. Every time I tried, I saw his blood on the sidewalk and the words died in my throat. Lena's breath caught. Noah reminds you of yourself. Yes. Adrian's gaze never wavered. A boy who lost everything and doesn't know how to process it, who needs safety and stability, and someone who won't push him to be okay before he's ready. He paused. I can give him that. I can give you both that. And in return, you give me the satisfaction of knowing I prevented someone else from suffering the way I did. It was the most honest thing he'd said to her, the most vulnerable, and it changed everything. You're a good man, Lena said softly. Adrian laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. No, I'm not. I've done things that would horrify you. I'll do more before this is over, but I can protect the people who matter. That's something. It's everything, Lena corrected. She was standing right in front of his desk now, close enough to see the fine lines around his eyes, the tension in his jaw. To us, it's everything. Their eyes met and held. Something passed between them, understanding maybe, or recognition. Two people who'd survived their own forms of violence, finding unexpected common ground. Stay, Adrian said suddenly. Not just until Derek is dealt with. Stay here, you and Noah. This house is too big, too empty, and you need stability. Let me provide that. For how long? As long as you need. It was too much, too generous, too dangerous for her heart, which was already starting to see him as more than just a benefactor. But Lena thought about Noah's drawings, about his small smile when Adrian asked him about his day, about sleeping without fear for the first time in forever. Okay, she whispered. We'll stay. Adrian's shoulders relaxed, almost imperceptibly, like he'd been braced for rejection. Good, was all he said. But the way he looked at her, like she'd given him something valuable, something precious, said so much more. The weeks that followed settled into something Lena had never experienced before. Routine without fear. She worked her shifts at Marcello's, where the staff had stopped whispering about her connection to Adrian and started treating her like family. Noah thrived at Riverside Academy, his backpack growing heavier with artwork he proudly brought home each afternoon. And Adrian remained a constant presence in their lives, quiet and watchful, asking about their days over dinner like it was the most natural thing in the world. It was almost enough to make Lena forget that this wasn't real, that she was living in a borrowed life, protected by a dangerous man who could withdraw his favor at any moment. Almost. "He drew this today," Noah's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, said one afternoon during pickup, handing Lena a piece of construction paper. The assignment was to draw your family. Lena's breath caught. The picture showed 3 figures standing in front of a large house, a small boy, a woman, and a tall man. Above them, Noah had written in careful letters, "My family." "He's making remarkable progress," Mrs. Patterson continued, her smile warm. "The therapist says he's starting to vocalize during their sessions. Just sounds, but it's a beginning." Lena clutched the drawing to her chest, emotions warring inside her, pride that Noah was healing, fear that he was getting too attached, guilt that she was letting it happen. Because the truth was, she was getting attached too. She'd started noticing things about Adrian, the way he took his coffee black but added sugar when he thought no one was looking, how he read actual books before bed, never screens, the small scar above his left eyebrow that he touched when he was thinking, the careful way he moved around Noah, never crowding, never demanding, just being present, and the way he looked at her sometimes when he thought she wasn't watching, like she was something precious he was afraid to touch. It terrified her. That evening, Lena found Adrian in the library, a room she'd discovered in her explorations of the house. Floor-to-ceiling shelves surrounded a fireplace where flames crackled softly. He sat in a leather chair reading, a glass of whiskey on the table beside him. He looked up as she entered. "Everything all right?" "Noah drew this today." She handed him the picture. Adrian studied it for a long moment, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "He sees us as family." "Yes." Lena sat in the chair across from him, the fire warming her skin. "Is that... should I be discouraging it? Setting boundaries? I don't know what the rules are here, Adrian. There are no rules." He set the drawing down carefully, like it was fragile. "Only what feels right." "And what feels right to you?" His dark eyes found hers across the space between them. "Having you both here feels right. Coming home to voices in the house, to Noah's artwork on the refrigerator, to you reading in the evenings. That feels right." He paused. "But I won't push for more than you're willing to give." "What if I don't know what I'm willing to give?" Lena's heart was racing. "What if I'm scared of what this is becoming?" "Then we go slowly. We take it day by day." Adrian leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I'm not Derek, Lena. I won't force anything. You set the pace. You decide what this is." The comparison to Derek sent a flash of anger through her. "You're nothing like him." "Aren't I?" His smile was bitter. "I've hurt people, worse than he ever did. I've made choices that keep me awake at night. The only difference is, I've never hurt someone who didn't choose this life." "That's not a small difference." "It's not enough of one." Adrian picked up his whiskey, swirling the amber liquid. "You should know what you're getting into. Who I really am." "I know who you are." Lena's voice strengthened. "You're the man who saved me, who gave Noah a safe place to heal, who sits with him at breakfast and asks about his day like it matters. You're the man who kept your promise. That's who you are to me." Something in Adrian's expression cracked, vulnerability showing through. "You make me want to be better, both of you. You make me want to be the man you think I am." "Then be him," Lena said simply. The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility. Then Adrian's phone buzzed, shattering it. He checked the screen and his entire demeanor changed, shoulders tensing, jaw tightening. "What's wrong?" Lena asked. "Derek was released this morning, early parole for good behavior." Adrian's voice was ice. "My contact at the prison just confirmed it." The world tilted. "But the sentence was 3 years. It's only been 6 weeks. Overcrowding, budget cuts, a sympathetic parole board." Adrian was already standing, moving to his desk. "It doesn't matter why. What matters is he's out." Fear crashed over Lena like a wave. He'll come for us. Yes. Adrian pulled his phone out again, typing rapidly. Which is why we're moving you tonight. Moving us where? I have a house on the coast. Isolated, secure. You and Noah will stay there until I handle this. His fingers flew across the screen. Marcus is already packing your things. You leave in an hour. An hour? Lena stood, panic rising. Adrian, I have work tomorrow. Noah has school. Oh! None of that matters if you're dead. His voice was sharp, cutting. Then he seemed to catch himself, softening. I'm sorry, but Derek violated every agreement, manipulated the system, and he's out there right now planning how to get to you. I won't risk it. What about you? I'll handle Derek, permanently this time. The word hung in the air between them. Permanently. No ambiguity about what that meant. You're going to kill him, Lena whispered. Adrian didn't deny it. I'm going to make sure he never threatens you again, whatever that takes. She should have been horrified, should have argued, should have insisted there was another way. But standing there, thinking about Derek's hands around her throat, about him showing up at Noah's school, about the years of terror she'd already lived through. Okay, she said. Adrian's eyes widened slightly. Okay? I'm not going to pretend to be naive about what you do or who you are. Lena moved closer to him, close enough to see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. If Derek dies, I'll mourn the man he could have been. But I won't mourn the monster he became. And I won't blame you for protecting us the only way you know how. For a moment, Adrian just stared at her. Then his hand came up, fingers gentle as they traced the fading bruises on her throat. I will never let anyone hurt you again, he said, voice low and fierce. That's a promise. I know. And she did. She trusted this dangerous man more than she'd trusted anyone in years. The next hour was chaos. Marcus appeared with suitcases already packed. Elena fussed over Noah, making sure he had his favorite things. Lena threw together last-minute items while trying to explain to her nephew that they were going on an adventure, just for a little while, nothing to worry about. Noah wasn't fooled. He clutched his stuffed bear and watched the adults with worried eyes that had seen too much already. Adrian walked them to the car, his hand on the small of Lena's back. The house is stocked with everything you'll need. There's security on the grounds, cameras on every entrance. You'll be safe there. What about you? Lena asked. Will you be safe? I'm always careful. That's not what I asked. His lips quirked in something almost like a smile. I'll be fine. I've been doing this a long time. Marcus loaded the last bag and opened the car door. Noah climbed in, but Lena hesitated. Adrian? He pulled her into a hug before she could finish. It was brief, controlled, but she could feel the tension in his body. The barely leashed violence ready to be unleashed on anyone who threatened what was his. Go, he said against her hair. I'll come to you when it's done. The drive took 3 hours, winding through darkness until they reached a road that hugged the coastline. The house appeared suddenly, perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean. It was smaller than the estate, but no less secure. Lights illuminating a modern structure of glass and stone that seemed to grow out of the rocks themselves. Marcus led them inside, checking every room, every lock, every window. There are 2 guards on the property at all times, he explained. They'll stay out of sight, but they're there. If anything happens, anything at all, you press this. He showed her a pendant on a chain, small and discreet. Help will come immediately. Are you staying? Lena asked. No, Mr. Russo needs me in the city. Marcus's expression was grim. But you're safer here than anywhere else. I promise. After he left, Lena and Noah explored their new temporary home. The main room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean, where waves crashed against rocks in a rhythm that should have been soothing. A kitchen stocked with enough food for weeks. 2 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. And everywhere, subtle signs of security. Cameras, reinforced glass, locks that looked simple but were anything but. Noah found the windows first, pressing his hands against the glass as he stared at the dark ocean beyond. The moon was rising, painting silver trails across the water. Lena joined him, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. Pretty, isn't it? He nodded, then looked up at her with a question in his eyes. Where's Adrian? He had to take care of something important, but he'll come see us soon. She hoped that was true, hoped Adrian would survive whatever confrontation was coming. They slept restlessly that first night, Lena startling awake at every unfamiliar sound. The house was full of them. The crash of waves, the whistle of wind, the creak of settling wood. She checked on Noah 3 times before finally accepting that sleep wasn't coming and moving to the main room. The ocean at night was mesmerizing, vast and dark and powerful. She could see why Adrian had chosen this place. It felt like the edge of the world, isolated from everything and everyone. Her phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Derek's associates know where you used to live. They came looking tonight. Found nothing. Lena's hands shook as she typed back. Are you all right? Yes. Stay where you are. Don't leave the house. She wanted to ask more. Where was Derek? What was happening? When would this be over? But the message had already been marked as read, and no response came. The waiting was torture. The next day crawled by. Lena tried to keep Noah entertained. They explored the beach below the house, always staying within sight of the guards Adrian had mentioned. Built elaborate sandcastles that the tide would wash away. Collected shells and sea glass, worn smooth by years of tumbling in the surf. But underneath every moment was the tension of not knowing, of waiting for word that didn't come. That evening, as Lena was making dinner, one of the guards appeared at the door. He was young, professional, with kind eyes that didn't match the weapon at his hip. Miss Carter, we need you to stay inside tonight. Lock all the doors and don't open them for anyone except Mr. Russo or myself. Ice flooded her veins. What's happening? Precaution, ma'am. We've had some activity in the area. Probably nothing, but Mr. Russo wants us to be careful. Probably nothing. The words meant everything. Lena locked the doors as instructed, checked every window, and brought Noah to the main room where she could see all approaches to the house. She tried to act normal, to not let her fear show, but Noah wasn't fooled. He stayed close, his small hand finding hers. Hours passed. The sun set, painting the ocean in shades of gold and red before darkness swallowed everything. Lena kept her phone close, willing it to ring, to buzz, to give her any information. At 9:30, lights appeared on the road leading to the house. A car, moving fast. Lena's heart hammered as she watched it approach. Too fast to be friendly, too aggressive to be... The car screeched to a stop in front of the house. Car doors opened. Figures emerged, backlit by headlights. She couldn't see faces, couldn't tell if they were security or... Gunfire erupted. Lena grabbed Noah and hit the floor, pulling him behind the couch as glass shattered somewhere in the house. The pendant around her neck, she pressed it frantically, over and over, sending silent pleas for help. Stay down, she hissed to Noah, whose eyes were huge with terror. Stay down and don't move. More gunfire. Shouting. The sound of the front door splintering. Footsteps in the house. Lena looked around desperately for a weapon, for anything. Her hand closed around a heavy book on the coffee table. Pathetic, but it was something. The footsteps were getting closer. Lena, a voice called. Male, familiar. I know you're here. Come out, and this doesn't have to get messy. Derek. He'd found them. Somehow, despite everything, he'd found them. Your boyfriend's men put up a good fight, Derek continued, his voice echoing through the house. But they're down now. It's just you and me, like old times. Noah trembled against her. Lena pulled him closer, her mind racing. The bedroom had a lock. If she could get there, barricade the door, maybe buy enough time for help to arrive. She started to move, crawling toward the hallway, pulling Noah with her. I can hear you, Derek sang out. Come on, Lena. You really think you can hide from me? They made it to the hallway. 5 more feet to the bedroom. A shadow fell across them. Lena looked up to find Derek standing there, gun in hand, smiling that terrible smile she remembered from her nightmares. There you are, he said. She pushed Noah behind her, rising to her feet on shaking legs. Don't touch him. I'm not here for the kid. I'm here for you. Derek stepped closer. You cost me 3 years of my life, got me locked up, turned into a rat for your rich boyfriend. Did you really think I'd let that go? Adrian will kill you for this. Adrian Russo is busy dealing with a little distraction I arranged in the city. By the time he realizes where I really am, you'll be gone. Derek raised the gun, pointing it at her chest. I told you this wasn't over. Please, Lena's voice cracked. Please, Derek. Whatever you're going to do, don't let Noah see it. He's just a child. Something flickered across Derek's face. You always did care more about that kid than you did about me. Because he's innocent. Because he deserves better than all of this. And I didn't? Derek's voice rose. I gave you everything. I protected you when your sister died. I gave you a place to stay. And you broke my bones, Lena shouted back. You terrorized us. You made our lives hell. I loved you. That wasn't love. Love doesn't hurt like that. Derek's finger tightened on the trigger. Lena closed her eyes, pulling Noah closer, preparing for... The front door exploded inward. Adrian came through it like vengeance personified, gun drawn, eyes blazing with fury. He took in the scene in a split second. Derek with his weapon pointed at Lena, Lena shielding Noah, the shattered windows and signs of violence. Drop it, Adrian said, his voice deadly calm. Derek spun, firing wildly. The shot went wide. Adrian didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. He fired once, precise and controlled. Derek went down. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by Noah's quiet sobs against Lena's shoulder. Adrian moved forward, kicking Derek's gun away, checking for a pulse. When he looked up, his expression was grim. He's alive. For now. He pulled out his phone, speaking rapidly to someone on the other end. Then he was moving to Lena and Noah, holstering his weapon as he knelt in front of them. Are you hurt? His hands were gentle as they checked them both over, looking for injuries. No. Lena's voice was shaking. The guards, Derek said. They're alive. Injured but alive. Backup's already with them. Adrian pulled Noah into his arms, the boy clinging to him desperately. You're safe now, I promise. You're safe. Lena watched him hold her nephew, this dangerous man offering comfort with surprising tenderness, and something inside her broke open. All the fear, all the tension, all the terror of the last hour came pouring out in great, racking sobs. Adrian pulled her close with his free arm, holding them both while she fell apart. I've got you, he murmured against her hair. I've got you both. The next hours were a blur of police and ambulances and questions Lena answered in a daze. Derek was taken away unconscious, surrounded by armed guards. Adrian's people handled everything with practiced efficiency, cleaning up the scene, repairing the damage, making it all disappear like it had never happened. Through it all, Adrian stayed close, a hand on her back, a steadying presence, proof that they had survived. As dawn broke over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Lena found herself standing on the deck with Adrian while Noah slept inside, finally exhausted enough to rest. He'll live, Adrian said quietly. Derek, the shot wasn't fatal. I know. Lena watched the waves crash below. Part of me wishes it had been. He's going back to prison. This time for attempted murder, breaking and entering, assault with a deadly weapon. They'll throw away the key. Will they? Lena turned to face him. Or will he manipulate his way out again? Not this time. Adrian's voice was iron. I've made sure of it. He'll die in prison, Lena, old and forgotten. That's his fate now. She should have felt relief, victory, something. Instead, she just felt tired. I'm sorry, Adrian said after a moment. I should have anticipated this. Should have protected you better. You saved our lives, again. Lena moved closer to him. How many times are you going to have to save us before you realize you've already done enough? There's no such thing as enough when it comes to keeping you safe. His hand came up, cupping her face. Don't you understand that yet? You and Noah, you've become everything to me. The thought of losing you... His voice broke. Lena leaned into his touch, exhaustion and emotion making her brave. Then don't let us go. Don't send us away to be safe. Let us stay with you. Let us be what Noah drew in that picture, a family. You don't know what you're asking. Yes, I do. I'm asking for the truth we've been dancing around for weeks. I'm asking for what I see in your eyes every time you look at us. She covered his hand with hers. I'm asking you to let us love you back. Adrian's breath caught. For a long moment, he just stared at her, vulnerability and hope and fear all warring across his features. Then he kissed her. It was gentle at first, tentative, like he was afraid she'd pull away. But Lena had been through hell and back in the last 12 hours, had faced death and survived, and she was done being afraid. She kissed him back with everything she had, all the fear transmuted into need, all the terror transformed into desperate affirmation of life. They were alive. They had survived. And she was choosing this, choosing him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he whispered. Both of you. I didn't mean to, didn't plan for it, but somewhere between Noah's first smile and your refusal to be afraid, I fell. Good, Lena whispered back, because we fell too. They stayed at the coastal house for 2 more days while Adrian's people secured the estate and ensured no other threats remained. Lena watched him work from a distance. Phone calls conducted in low voices, meetings with men whose faces she didn't recognize, decisions made with the kind of quiet authority that came from years of command. This was the other side of Adrian Russo, the one the world feared, and she was seeing it fully for the first time. It should have frightened her. Instead, she found it strangely comforting. This was the man who had the power to keep them safe, who would burn down the world to protect what was his. And they were his now. She'd said it, he'd claimed it, and there was no going back. The drive home felt different this time. Lena sat in the front seat beside Adrian while Noah dozed in the back, his stuffed bear clutched to his chest. The city appeared on the horizon as the sun began to set, all glass and steel and lights coming alive. I need to tell you something, Adrian said as they merged onto the highway. Before we get back. Something in his tone made Lena's stomach tighten. Okay. Derek had help. Someone told him where you were. Someone with access to information they shouldn't have had. Who? I'm still finding out. But there's a leak somewhere in my organization. Someone I trusted. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. Which means, until I find them, we need to be careful, more careful than before. How careful? You don't go anywhere without Marcus or one of my other men. Noah doesn't leave the estate grounds except for school, and even then with armed escorts. No visitors unless I've personally vetted them. Adrian glanced at her. I know it sounds extreme, but do what you need to do. Lena looked back at Noah, still sleeping peacefully. Whatever keeps him safe. They arrived at the estate as full darkness fell. The gates opened smoothly, security waving them through with respectful nods. Everything looked normal, peaceful. But Lena could feel the tension radiating off Adrian, could see it in the way his eyes scanned every shadow, every window, every possible threat. Elena met them at the door, her face lighting up when she saw Noah. There's my favorite artist. I've missed you. Noah managed a small smile, still drowsy from the car ride. Elena, Adrian said quietly, take Noah upstairs. Get him settled. Lena and I need to discuss some things. The older woman's expression shifted, understanding passing across her features. Of course, Mr. Russo. Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you some hot chocolate and cookies. Noah looked at Lena questioningly. She nodded, forcing a smile. I'll be up in a few minutes, baby. I promise. After they disappeared upstairs, Adrian led Lena to his office. Marcus was already there, standing by the window with an expression like carved stone. Tell her, Adrian said without preamble. Marcus turned to face them. We found the leak, or rather, he found us. Who? Lena asked. Carlo Benedetti, one of Mr. Russo's lieutenants. He's been feeding information to the Moretti family for the past 6 months. The name meant nothing to Lena, but she could see the muscle jumping in Adrian's jaw. This betrayal cut deep. The Morettis, she said? Derek's family? Cousins on his mother's side, Marcus confirmed. They're the ones who arranged his early release, who told him where to find you at the beach house. They've been building a case against Mr. Russo, trying to gather evidence of criminal activity. Evidence they haven't found, Adrian cut in, his voice cold. Because I don't leave evidence, but that hasn't stopped them from trying. And now they're using you as leverage. Lena's blood went cold. What do you mean? Adrian moved to his desk, pulling up something on his computer. He turned the monitor so she could see. Photos. Dozens of them. Lena walking into Marcello's, picking up Noah from school, standing on the beach house deck. And in every single one, the angle was invasive, predatory. They've been watching you, Adrian said, documenting everything. And this morning, they sent me a message. He clicked to an email. Lena read it, her hands beginning to shake. Mr. Russo, we know what she means to you. We know what the boy means to you. Withdraw from the Harborside Development Project and dissolve your interest in the waterfront properties, or we make them disappear. You have 48 hours. The Moretti family. They're threatening to kidnap us, Lena whispered. Yes. What's the Harborside Development? A billion-dollar real estate project on the waterfront. The Morettis want it. I already own the key properties they need to make it work. Adrian's expression was carved from granite. Without those properties, their entire plan collapses. So give it to them. Lena looked between Adrian and Marcus. It's just business, just money. Give them what they want. It's not that simple, Marcus said gently. Why not?
Because if I give in to this, Adrian said, his voice tight with controlled fury, every other family in the city will see it as weakness. They'll come after what's mine. They'll use you and Noah as leverage whenever they want something. He slammed his hand on the desk. I will not let that happen. So what's the alternative? Lena demanded. We just wait for them to make good on their threat? Wait for them to... She couldn't finish, couldn't say the words.
The alternative, Adrian said quietly, is that I end this. Tonight. Before they have a chance to act. End it how? The look he gave her was answer enough. No. Lena backed away, shaking her head. No, you can't just... There has to be another way. Legal channels, the police can't help us, Marcus said. The Morettis have officers on their payroll, judges, prosecutors. Going through legal channels would just give them advance warning. So you're just going to kill them? All of them? Not all of them, Adrian said. Just the ones who made the decision to threaten you. The leadership. Once they're gone, the family will fracture, spend years fighting over succession. They won't have time to worry about us. Lena stared at him, truly seeing him for the first time. Not the man who held Noah gently or asked about her day. Not the protector who'd saved her life twice, but the crime boss. The killer. The man who solved problems with bullets and bodies. I can't... She pressed her hands to her mouth. I can't be the reason people die, Adrian. I can't live with that. You won't be the reason. He moved toward her, but she stepped back. The flash of hurt in his eyes nearly broke her. They made this choice. They decided to threaten innocent people. That's on them. And you're just going to execute them? Like it's nothing? It's not nothing. His voice rose for the first time. It's everything. It's keeping you alive. It's making sure Noah grows up safe. It's protecting what's mine. I'm not a possession, Lena shouted back. Neither is Noah. We're people, Adrian. People with our own choices. And I choose not to have blood on my hands. Then what do you suggest? Adrian's control was cracking, desperation bleeding through. What would you have me do, Lena? Wait for them to grab Noah off the street? Wait for them to put a bullet in your head and leave him orphaned again? Because that's what will happen if I don't act first. The words hit like physical blows. There has to be another way, Lena insisted, but her voice was weakening. There isn't. Marcus spoke up. Ma'am, I understand your moral opposition. I do. But in this world, hesitation gets people killed. Good people. Innocent people. Mr. Russo is trying to prevent that. By becoming a murderer. He already is one, Marcus said bluntly. Has been for years. The only question now is whether he uses that to protect you or whether his conscience gets you killed. The truth of it slammed into Lena like a freight train. She'd known abstractly what Adrian was, what he'd done. But knowing and confronting it were two different things. She couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in. I need air. I need to think. She turned and ran, ignoring Adrian calling her name. Lena found herself in the garden, in the darkness under stars that felt like cold, distant eyes. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. She'd known this would have a price, had told herself she was prepared for it, but she'd been lying to herself. She wasn't prepared for this, for the weight of other people's deaths, for the knowledge that her happiness, Noah's safety, would be purchased with blood. Lena, Adrian's voice came from behind her. She didn't turn around. Don't, her voice cracked. Don't tell me it's necessary. Don't tell me they deserve it. Don't make this easier for me. I won't. He moved to stand beside her, careful not to touch. I'll just tell you the truth. If I don't do this, they will hurt you. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but eventually they'll make their move, and I will lose you. His voice broke. I can't lose you. Either of you. I won't survive it. People aren't supposed to kill for love, Lena whispered. People kill for love all the time. They just don't admit it. Adrian's laugh was bitter. At least I'm honest about what I am. What are you? A monster who loves you. He finally reached out, his hand hovering near her shoulder but not touching. A killer who would burn the world down to keep you safe. I know that's not what you wanted. I know you deserve better. But it's all I have to give. Lena turned to face him. In the moonlight, she could see the anguish written across his features. The fear. The love. If you do this, she said slowly, if you kill these people, I need you to promise me something.
Anything. Promise me it's the last time. Promise me you'll find another way to handle things from now on. Legal ways, clean ways. Her voice strengthened. I can live with your past, Adrian. I can even live with this, if it truly is the only option. But I can't build a future with someone who solves every problem with violence. He was quiet for a long moment, and she could see him wrestling with it. This was who he'd been for so long. The enforcer, the executioner. Could he change? Would he? I promise, he finally said. After tonight, I find different solutions, better solutions. I'll try to be the man you think I am.
The man you already are, Lena corrected softly. The man who reads bedtime stories to Noah, who makes sure I eat breakfast, who holds me when I have nightmares. She took his hand. That's who you are, Adrian. This other thing, it's what you do, but it's not who you are. He pulled her against him, burying his face in her hair. I don't deserve you. Probably not. Lena's arms came around him. But you're stuck with me anyway.
They stood like that for a long time, holding each other under the stars. When they finally pulled apart, Adrian's expression had hardened back into that cold mask she'd seen earlier. I need to go, he said. Marcus and the others are waiting. We need to move tonight before the Morettis realize we know about their plan. How long will you be gone? A few hours, maybe less. He cupped her face. Elena will stay with you and Noah. There are extra guards on the property. You'll be safe here.
I'm not worried about me. Lena held his gaze. Come back. Promise me you'll come back.
I promise.
He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. I love you. I love you too. The words still felt strange on her tongue, but true. God help her, they were true. Be careful. He nodded and was gone, disappearing into the house like a shadow. Lena stood in the garden for a while longer, trying to process everything. Then she went inside to check on Noah. She found him in his room, sitting on his bed with his sketchpad. He'd been drawing again, more pictures of their makeshift family. But this time there was something different. Dark figures in the background, closing in on the three of them standing together. You heard, Lena said quietly, sitting beside him. Noah nodded. His hand moved across the page, adding more details. In the newest drawing, Adrian stood in front of Lena and Noah, arms spread wide, blocking the dark figures, protecting them. Then Noah did something that made Lena's heart stop. He opened his mouth and spoke, his voice rough from disuse but clear. He'll keep us safe. 4 words. 4 precious words after months of silence. Lena pulled him into her arms, tears streaming down her face. Yes, baby, he will. He will. Noah relaxed against her, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Lena felt a small spark of hope. They would survive this. They would find a way through. They had to. The hours crawled by. Lena tried to sleep but couldn't. Tried to read but the words blurred together. Tried to distract herself with anything but all she could think about was Adrian out there somewhere, doing terrible things for good reasons. Around 2 a.m, she heard cars in the driveway. Voices, movement. She met Marcus in the hallway. He looked tired but uninjured. He's fine. Everyone's fine. Marcus's expression was carefully neutral. It's done, ma'am. The threat has been eliminated. Eliminated? Such a clean word for murder. Where is he? His office. But ma'am, Marcus hesitated. He might need some time. What we had to do tonight. I need to see him. Marcus stepped aside. Lena found Adrian standing at his office window, staring out at the grounds. His jacket was gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up. There was blood on his cuff. Adrian? He didn't turn around. It's done. You and Noah are safe. The Morettis won't trouble us again. His voice was flat, empty. Nothing like the warm tones she'd grown used to. Are you okay? Am I okay? He laughed, a harsh sound. I just killed 3 men, Lena. Watched the life leave their eyes. Felt their blood on my hands. He finally turned to face her, and what she saw in his expression made her breath catch. Do I look okay to you? He looked haunted, hollowed out, like he'd left pieces of himself scattered across whatever battleground he'd just returned from. Come here, Lena said softly. I'm covered in... I don't care. Come here.
He moved toward her like a man in a dream. When she wrapped her arms around him, he went rigid for a moment before collapsing against her, his whole body shaking. I'm sorry, he whispered against her shoulder. I'm so sorry you have to see me like this, that you have to know what I'm capable of. Shh. Lena held him tighter. I know what you're capable of, and I know why you did it. That doesn't change how I feel about you. It should. Well, it doesn't. She pulled back enough to look at him. You did what you had to do to protect us. I hate that it came to this. Hate that people died. But I don't hate you, Adrian. I could never hate you. Something in his expression cracked. How can you still look at me like that? Like I'm something worth saving? Because you are. Lena touched his face, her fingers gentle against his jaw. You're more than the worst things you've done. You're more than tonight. And tomorrow, we start building something better. Together. Like you promised. He kissed her then, desperate and seeking, like she was the only thing tethering him to his humanity. Lena kissed him back, pouring every ounce of love and acceptance into it that she had. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Stop saying that. Lena's voice was firm. You deserve love. You deserve happiness. You deserve a family that chooses you every single day. She pulled back to meet his eyes. We choose you, Adrian. Noah and I. We choose you. For the first time since he'd returned, something like hope flickered in his dark eyes. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that choice, he said. You already are. They stood together in his office, holding each other as dawn began to break outside. The night was over. The threat was gone. But Lena couldn't shake the feeling that something else was coming. Something worse. She was right. 3 days later, Marcus appeared in the breakfast room where Lena and Adrian were having coffee while Noah worked on his homework at the table. Mr. Russo, we have a problem. Adrian's expression immediately shifted to alert. What kind of problem? The kind that involves federal agents at the gate requesting to speak with you. Lena's blood went cold. Federal agents? Like FBI? Yes, ma'am. Marcus's jaw was tight. They have a warrant for Mr. Russo's arrest. The world seemed to tilt. On what charges? Adrian's voice was deadly calm, but Lena could see his hands clenching into fists under the table. Multiple counts of racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, and accessory to homicide. Marcus paused. They have evidence. Photos, testimony, financial records. Someone's been building a case against you for months. Carlo, Adrian said through gritted teeth. Not just Carlo. They have recordings. Conversations you had in your office, in your car, on your phone. Marcus's expression was grim. Someone's been surveilling you for a very long time, boss. They know everything. Lena felt the room spinning. What does this mean? Adrian stood slowly, his face a mask of controlled fury. It means Carlo wasn't working for the Morettis. He was working for the FBI, and I just gave them exactly what they needed to put me away for life. The Moretti hit, Lena whispered, understanding dawning like a nightmare. They were waiting for you to do something they could prove, something they could use, and I walked right into it. Adrian's laugh was bitter. I was so focused on protecting you that I didn't see the real trap. Boss, we need to move fast, Marcus said. If you leave now, we can get you out of the country before... No. Adrian's voice was absolute. I'm not running. I won't have Lena and Noah living their lives, looking over their shoulders, waiting for me to be caught. Adrian, you can't just turn yourself in, Lena said, panic rising in her chest. They'll lock me away for the rest of my life, I know. He moved to her, taking her hands. But if I run, they'll come after you. Use you as leverage to draw me out. I won't let that happen. There has to be another way. There isn't. He pulled her close, and Lena could feel him memorizing the moment, the feel of her in his arms. But I need you to promise me something.
Anything. Take care of Noah. Keep him safe. Don't let him forget that he was loved. Adrian's voice cracked. And don't wait for me. Build a life. Be happy. Find someone who can give you what you deserve. Don't talk like that. Tears were streaming down Lena's face now. Don't talk like you're already gone. We'll fight this. We'll get you the best lawyers. They have recordings, Lena. Evidence. Testimony from someone on the inside. Adrian's smile was sad. There's no fighting this. There's only accepting it. Noah had gone very still at the table, his eyes huge as he watched them. Mr. Russo, Marcus said quietly, they're coming up the drive. Adrian kissed Lena one last time, deep and fierce and final. Then he pulled away, moving to kneel in front of Noah. Hey, buddy, he said softly. I need you to be brave for me, okay? Be brave and take care of your aunt. Can you do that? Noah's lip trembled. Then he threw his arms around Adrian's neck, holding on tight. I love you, Dad, he whispered. The word, Dad, broke something in Adrian's expression. He held Noah close, his shoulders shaking. I love you too, son. So much. More than you'll ever know. The doorbell rang. Marcus moved to answer it, and moments later, federal agents swarmed into the house, weapons drawn. Adrian Russo, you're under arrest for racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, and multiple counts of... Lena stopped listening. She watched, numb, as they handcuffed Adrian and led him toward the door. He looked back once, his eyes finding hers across the chaos. I love you, he mouthed. Then he was gone. Noah buried his face against Lena's side, his small body racked with sobs. Elena appeared from somewhere, her face pale, reaching for Noah. Come on, sweetheart, let's get you upstairs. No. Noah's voice was muffled against Lena. Don't want to leave Aunt Lena. It's okay, Lena heard herself saying, though nothing was okay. Nothing would ever be okay again. We'll stay together. Marcus approached, his expression carefully neutral. Ma'am, you should know they'll be coming back. For the house, for the assets. Everything connected to Mr. Russo will be seized as part of the investigation. I don't care about the house, Lena said numbly. I don't care about any of it. I know, but you need to prepare. You and Noah, you'll need somewhere to go. The full weight of it crashed over her. Adrian was gone. The house would be taken. Everything they'd built together, every moment of safety and stability, was crumbling around them. She looked down at Noah, still clinging to her, and made a decision. We'll figure it out, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. We always do. But as she watched federal agents begin cataloging Adrian's possessions, marking everything for seizure, Lena couldn't help but wonder if this time there was anything left to figure out. They'd survived Derek, survived the Morettis, survived every threat that had come for them. But how did you survive losing the person who'd made you feel safe for the first time in your life? How did you explain to an 8-year-old that the father he'd just learned to trust was gone? How did you start over when you'd finally found home? Lena didn't have answers. All she had was Noah's hand in hers and the echo of Adrian's final words. I love you. It would have to be enough. It had to be, because there was nothing else left. The apartment Lena found was nothing like the estate. Third-floor walk-up in a neighborhood that made her old place look upscale. Peeling paint, stairs that creaked warnings with every step, a radiator that clanked through the night like a prisoner rattling chains. But it was hers, paid for with what little money she'd managed to save before the feds seized everything connected to Adrian. 2 bedrooms barely bigger than closets, a kitchen with counters that had seen better decades, windows that faced a brick wall. Noah hated it. She could see it as the way he moved through the cramped space, shoulders hunched, eyes darting to corners like he was looking for exits that didn't exist. He'd stopped talking again. The fragile progress he'd made had shattered the moment those federal agents led Adrian away in handcuffs. 3 weeks. That's how long it had been since the arrest. 3 weeks of silence from Noah. 3 weeks of Lena working double shifts at a diner 6 blocks away because Marcello's had closed after Adrian's arrest, the investigation sweeping through everything he touched. 3 weeks of lying awake at night wondering if Adrian was okay, if he thought about them, if he regretted ever stepping into that alley and saving her life. Lena dropped her purse on the kitchen counter, exhaustion making her movements clumsy.
Her feet screamed in the cheap shoes she'd bought at a discount store, nothing like the comfortable ones Elena had made sure she had at the estate. Elena, Marcus, the house, Adrian, all gone. How was school? She asked Noah, who sat at the tiny kitchen table with his homework spread out in front of him. He shrugged without looking up. Noah, baby, I need you to talk to me. Please. Nothing. Lena felt something crack inside her chest. She moved to the table, kneeling beside his chair so she could look at him properly. I know you're angry. I know you're scared. I know this isn't what we had, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Her voice broke. But I need you to understand that we're going to be okay. We survived before Adrian, and we'll survive now. Noah's hand stilled on his pencil. When he finally looked at her, his eyes were wet. I want my dad, he whispered. The words destroyed her. I know, I want him too. Lena pulled Noah into her arms, both of them crying now. But he's not here, baby. He's not here, and we have to figure out how to keep going without him. Noah's small body shook against hers. It's not fair. No, it's not. They stayed like that until the tears ran dry, until there was nothing left but the hollow ache of loss. Lena was making dinner, boxed macaroni and cheese, the cheap kind, not the fancy organic stuff the estate had always stocked, when someone knocked on the door. Her heart jumped. For one wild second, she thought maybe it was Adrian. Maybe somehow he'd gotten bail. Maybe the charges had been dropped. Maybe... But when she checked through the peephole, it was Marcus standing in the hallway. She threw open the door. Marcus? What are you... How did you find us? May I come in? Lena stepped aside, her mind racing. Marcus looked different out of his usual suit. Jeans and a plain jacket, nothing that screamed security detail for a crime boss. But his eyes were the same, sharp, assessing, missing nothing. Is Adrian okay? The question burst out before she could stop it. As okay as anyone can be in federal lockup. Marcus's expression softened slightly. He's in isolation for his own protection. The families he's crossed over the years would love a shot at him in general population. Lena's stomach twisted. Can I see him? Visit him? No visitors yet except his lawyer, and the lawyer says... Marcus paused. He says the evidence is overwhelming. Multiple recordings of Mr. Russo ordering hits, moving money, conducting illegal business. The Moretti situation sealed it. They have him on tape planning the whole thing. The room spun. Lena grabbed the counter for support. How long? 25 to life if he's lucky. 50 if they throw everything at him and it sticks. 50 years. Adrian would be an old man, or dead, and they would be... Why are you here, Marcus? Lena asked, her voice hollow. Marcus glanced at Noah, who'd appeared in the doorway of his room, watching. Can we talk? Privately? Lena led him to the tiny bedroom she'd claimed as hers, closing the door. Through the thin walls, she could hear the neighbors arguing, a baby crying, life in all its desperate, messy reality. Mr. Russo wanted me to give you something? Marcus pulled an envelope from his jacket. He had his lawyer smuggle this out. Lena's hands shook as she took it. Her name was written on the front in Adrian's precise handwriting. There's also this. Marcus set a small black case on the bed. He wanted to make sure you and Noah were provided for, so he established accounts in your name months ago. Clean money, nothing the feds can touch. Enough to buy a house, pay for Noah's education, live comfortably. Lena stared at the case. I can't. You can and you will. Marcus's voice was firm. He protected you, even knowing it might come to this. Don't dishonor that by refusing his help now. But, Miss Carter, Lena, please. Marcus's expression cracked slightly, showing the grief beneath. Let him do this one last thing. Let him know you and the boy will be okay. That's all he has left. Lena opened the case. Inside were account statements, deeds to properties, investment portfolios, millions of dollars, all legally acquired, all untraceable to Adrian's criminal enterprises. How long has he been planning this? Since the day you called him, Marcus smiled slightly. Since the day you accepted his protection. He knew there was a chance it would end like this. Wanted to make sure you'd survive it. The envelope in her hand felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. There's something else you need to know, Marcus continued. The FBI is still investigating. They're looking into everyone connected to Mr. Russo, which means they'll eventually look at you. Fear spiked through her. But I didn't know anything. I didn't do anything. I know that. Mr. Russo made sure of it, kept you completely separate from the business. But they'll still question you, pressure you to testify against him. I would never, I know. But they'll try. And when they do, you remember, you were just someone he helped, someone under his protection. You didn't know about his business dealings. You didn't participate. You were as shocked as anyone when he was arrested. It was the truth, mostly, except for the part where she'd known exactly what Adrian was doing the night he killed the Moretti leadership, where she'd given him her blessing to do it. Marcus,
Don't tell me. He held up a hand. Whatever you know, whatever you suspect,
keep it to yourself, for Noah's sake, for your own sake. His eyes were kind but serious. Mr. Russo's last instruction to me was to make sure you and the boy stayed free. Don't make that impossible by confessing to something you can't take back. After Marcus left, Lena sat on her bed holding Adrian's letter, not yet brave enough to open it. Noah appeared in the doorway. Was that Marcus? Yeah, baby. He works for Dad. The word Dad made Lena's throat tighten. He did. I don't know what he does now. Noah was quiet for a moment. Then, is Dad coming back? Lena wanted to lie, wanted to tell him yes, of course, everything would be fine, but she'd promised herself after Sarah died that she would never lie to Noah about the important things. I don't know, she said honestly. He's in a lot of trouble, the kind that might keep him away for a very long time. Noah's face crumpled. He turned and ran back to his room, slamming the door. Lena let him go. Sometimes grief needed space. She opened the envelope. Adrian's handwriting covered 2 pages, each word carefully formed like he'd taken his time, made every letter count. Lena, if you're reading this, then the worst has happened, and I'm exactly where I deserve to be. I won't waste words on apologies or explanations. You know who I am, what I've done, the choices I made. I want you to know that loving you and Noah, it was the most real thing in my life. The only clean thing. You saw something in me worth saving, and even if I couldn't be that man forever, I was that man with you. For those few months, I was someone better. Marcus will make sure you have everything you need. The money is yours, free and clear. Use it. Build a life. Give Noah the childhood he deserves. Don't let guilt or loyalty to me hold you back from happiness. I need you to do something for me. I need you to let me go. Don't wait. Don't put your life on hold for someone who might never get out. You're 28 years old with a whole life ahead of you. Live it. Tell Noah I love him. Tell him his father is sorry he couldn't be there to watch him grow up. Tell him to be better than me, to make different choices, to find a path that doesn't end in a cell. And for yourself, know that you saved me in every way a person can be saved. Those months with you were worth whatever comes next. I'd do it all again, consequences be damned, just to have that time with you. I love you. I'll love you until my last breath. Don't come looking for me. Don't try to visit. Just live, Lena. Live loud and bright and free. Yours always, Adrian. The paper was wet with tears before she finished reading. Lena clutched it to her chest, grief and rage and love all tangled together in a knot she couldn't untie. He wanted her to let him go, to move on, to forget. But how did you forget the man who'd saved your life? Who'd given your nephew a voice again? Who'd made you feel safe for the first time in forever? She read the letter 3 more times before tucking it carefully into her nightstand drawer. Then she lay in the dark, listening to the sounds of the building, voices through walls, footsteps on stairs, sirens in the distance. This was her life now, this cramped apartment, this neighborhood, this grinding daily struggle to survive. But they had money now. Adrian's gift, his final act of protection. Tomorrow Lena decided she would start looking for a better place. Somewhere with a yard for Noah. Somewhere that didn't smell like desperation. She owed Adrian that much. To use what he'd given them to build something good. 2 months passed in a blur of moving, settling, adjusting. The new house was in a good school district an hour outside the city. 3 bedrooms, a backyard with an old oak tree perfect for climbing, neighbors who smiled and waved but didn't ask too many questions. Noah's new therapist was helping. Slowly, so slowly Lena almost couldn't see the progress day to day. He was coming back to himself. Talking more, drawing pictures that weren't quite so dark.
But he asked about Adrian constantly. When was Dad coming home? Could they visit? Did Dad still love them? Lena answered honestly every time. She didn't know. No, they couldn't visit. And yes, Dad loved them more than anything. She'd stopped following the news coverage of Adrian's case, stopped reading articles about the trial. It hurt too much to see his face in handcuffs, to read about his crimes laid out in clinical legal language, to watch commentators debate whether he deserved mercy. She knew what he'd done, knew some of it was unforgivable, but she also knew the man who'd held her through nightmares, who'd learned Noah's favorite foods and made sure the kitchen was always stocked with them, who'd read legal documents with reading glasses perched on his nose and looked almost scholarly, almost normal. Both versions were real. Both versions were Adrian. And she loved them both, even knowing she shouldn't. Lena was in the kitchen making Noah's lunch for school when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Miss Carter? She didn't recognize the voice. Male, formal, careful. Yes? My name is David Chen. I'm Adrian Russo's attorney. Lena's heart jumped into her throat. Is he okay? Did something happen? He's physically fine, but I'm calling because… Chen paused. The trial is starting next week. Mr. Russo has instructed me not to contact you, but I felt you should know, in case you wanted to attend. He doesn't want me there. No, he doesn't. He's been very clear about keeping you and Noah away from this. But Miss Carter, I think you should know, this is going to be bad. The prosecution has built an airtight case. Multiple witnesses, recordings, financial evidence. Short of a miracle, Mr. Russo is going to be convicted on most, if not all, charges. Lena's knees went weak. She grabbed the counter. How long? 50 years minimum, possibly life without parole. The words were a physical blow. Does he know? Yes. He's accepted it. Honestly, I think he's relieved. He told me yesterday that at least in prison he knows you're safe, that no one can use you to get to him anymore. Lena pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting the sob that wanted to escape. Thank you for telling me, she managed. Miss Carter, there is one thing you could do, if you're willing. What? Character witness. If you testified about the man you know, about how he protected you and your nephew, it might convince the judge to show mercy in sentencing, 50 years instead of life, a chance at parole before he's too old to enjoy it. He won't want me to do that. Won't want me involved. No, he won't. Chen's voice was gentle. But the question isn't what he wants, it's what you can live with. Can you live with not trying, not speaking up for the man who loved you enough to sacrifice everything? The question haunted Lena for the next 3 days. She imagined walking into that courtroom, imagined facing Adrian across that space. Would he be angry, grateful, terrified that she was tainting herself by association? She imagined testifying, telling the truth about who he was to them. Would it make a difference? Or would it just be empty words against a mountain of evidence? She imagined the aftermath, the press coverage, the scrutiny, the questions Noah would face. Your aunt testified for a murderer, a criminal, a monster. But she also imagined 50 years from now. Imagined Noah grown with children of his own. Imagined him asking, did you try to help him? Did you speak up? And having to say no. The decision crystallized. On the first day of the trial, Lena called Mrs. Chen, the new Mrs. Chen, her elderly neighbor who'd agreed to watch Noah after school, and arranged for her to keep him overnight. I have something I need to do, Lena explained. Something important. She drove to the courthouse in the city, her hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. The building was massive, imposing, with steps that seemed designed to make you feel small. Press had gathered on the sidewalk. Cameras, reporters, protesters, holding signs demanding justice for Adrian's victims. Lena kept her head down and pushed through. David Chen met her in the hallway outside the courtroom. His eyes widened when he saw her. Miss Carter, I didn't think… I want to testify, Lena said. Put me on the stand. Let me tell them who he really is. Mr. Russo will be furious. I don't care. Chen studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right. I'll call you this afternoon. Be ready to tell the truth. All of it. The courtroom was packed. Lena found a seat in the back, trying to be invisible. Then they brought Adrian in. He looked thinner, older. The suit he wore hung slightly loose on his frame,
and there were shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. But when the bailiff removed his handcuffs, he stood straight, shoulders back, every inch the powerful man she remembered. His eyes swept the courtroom and stopped on her. The shock that crossed his face was almost comical. Then fury. He shook his head sharply. No, get out, leave. Lena stayed exactly where she was. The prosecution's case was devastating. Witness after witness described Adrian's criminal empire. The violence, the intimidation, the cold calculation behind every move. They played recordings of him ordering hits, discussing money laundering, threatening people who crossed him. The man they described was a monster. But he was also the man Lena loved. When Chen called her to the stand that afternoon, the courtroom erupted in whispers. Lena walked to the witness box on shaking legs, refusing to look at Adrian, knowing if she did she might lose her nerve. "State your name for the record," the bailiff said. "Lena Marie Carter." "And how do you know the defendant?" Lena took a breath, met the prosecutor's skeptical gaze, and told the truth. She told them about Derek, about the alley, about Adrian saving her life when he had no reason to, about his protection, his generosity, his unexpected gentleness with a traumatized 8-year-old. "He didn't have to help us," Lena said, her voice steady. "He could have walked away. Let us figure it out ourselves." But he didn't. He saw someone who needed help, and he gave it freely. "And you're aware of his criminal activities?" the prosecutor asked, during cross-examination, her voice dripping with disdain. "I'm aware of what he's accused of, yes. But you still chose to associate with him? To bring a child into his home?" "I chose to accept protection from someone who offered it when no one else would." Lena's voice hardened. "The police couldn't help me. The restraining order was meaningless. My ex-partner had found me 3 times in 6 months and put me in the hospital twice. Adrian Russo was the only person who made me feel safe. Even knowing he was a criminal, even knowing he was complicated." Lena looked directly at the prosecutor. "People aren't one thing. They're not all good or all evil. Adrian Russo did terrible things, I'm not denying that, but he also saved my life, gave my nephew a home when he had none, loved us when we'd forgotten what that felt like. Both things are true." "So you're saying his good deeds outweigh his crimes?" "No. I'm saying he's human, flawed and broken and trying. I'm saying the man I know deserves to be seen fully, not just as a monster, but as someone capable of love and change and sacrifice." The prosecutor sneered. "How convenient for Mr. Russo that his lover shows up to paint him as a saint." "I'm not painting him as anything except what he is." Lena's voice rose. "A man who made terrible choices for understandable reasons, who hurt people to protect others, who lived in violence so long he forgot there were other options." She finally looked at Adrian, whose face was a mask of anguish. "But he was trying to change. We talked about it, about finding different solutions, about being better. He wanted to be better for us. And yet he killed 3 people 2 days after that conversation. To protect us. Because he saw no other way." Tears streamed down Lena's face now, but her voice stayed strong. "You want me to condemn him for that? Fine. It was wrong. It was criminal. It was also the only reason my nephew and I are alive right now. The Morettis would have killed us if Adrian hadn't acted first. So yes, I'm grateful. I'm grateful he loved us enough to damn himself to save us." The courtroom was silent. "No further questions," the prosecutor said, disgust evident in every syllable. Lena stepped down from the witness box on trembling legs. As she passed Adrian's table, she made the mistake of looking at him. The expression on his face broke her heart all over again. Love and fury and desperation all tangled together. Chen stood. "Your Honor, the defense rests." Outside the courtroom, Lena made it 3 steps before her legs gave out. She sank onto a bench in the hallway, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. David Chen appeared moments later. "That was either the bravest or most foolish thing I've ever seen." "Did it help?" "I don't know. Maybe." He sat beside her. "The judge looked moved, but the evidence is still overwhelming. At best, you might have shaved a few years off his sentence." "A few years? Out of 50? "He's going to hate me for this," Lena whispered. "Probably. For about 5 minutes. Then he's going to realize what you did and spend the rest of his life being grateful." Chen's voice was kind. "You gave him something no one else in that courtroom did. You saw him as human. That matters, even if it doesn't change the outcome. The verdict came 3 days later, guilty on all counts. Sentencing was immediate. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, looked down at Adrian with something that might have been pity. Mr. Russo, you've been found guilty of racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, money laundering, and a host of other charges. The evidence against you is overwhelming and troubling. You've caused immeasurable harm to this community. She paused. However, I've also heard testimony about your capacity for protection and care, about the lives you saved even as you destroyed others. This doesn't excuse your crimes, but it does complicate the picture of who you are. Adrian stood perfectly still, his face betraying nothing. I hereby sentence you to 35 years in federal prison with the possibility of parole after 25. I hope you use that time to become the man Miss Carter believes you can be. 35 years. Lena's breath left her in a rush. Not 50. Not life. 35 with parole after 25. It was still forever, still longer than they'd been alive. But it was something, a sliver of hope. As they led Adrian away, he turned back one last time. His eyes found Lena's in the crowd. "Thank you," he mouthed. Then he was gone. Lena sat in the courtroom long after everyone else had left, staring at the empty space where Adrian had stood. 25 years minimum before parole. Noah would be 33, a grown man with his own life. She would be 53, old enough to have lived an entire lifetime without Adrian. It was an eternity. It was unbearable. It was reality. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Meet me. Tonight, 9 p.m. The address below. Come alone. M. Marcus." The address was in the warehouse district, the kind of area where people didn't ask questions and didn't call the police. Lena knew she shouldn't go, knew it was dangerous, possibly stupid, but she went anyway. The warehouse was dark, lit only by a few security lights that threw strange shadows across the concrete floor. Lena's footsteps echoed as she walked toward the center, where Marcus waited. He wasn't alone. 6 men stood with him, all armed, all watching her with expressions she couldn't read. "Thank you for coming," Marcus said. "What is this?" Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. "A choice." Marcus gestured to the men. "These are what's left of Mr. Russo's organization. The ones who didn't flip, who didn't run. The loyal ones." "I don't understand." "Adrian's in prison. His empire is collapsing. The families are circling, trying to carve up his territory." Marcus stepped closer. "But there's another option. We can hold it together. Keep everything running until he gets out." Lena's blood went cold. "You want me to, what, run his criminal organization? I want you to be the face of it. The figurehead." Marcus's eyes were intense. "You testified for him. The families saw that. They know you matter to him. If you step up, if you claim his territory and his name, they'll think twice before moving on it." "That's insane. It's survival." Marcus moved closer still. "Lena, the moment Adrian's empire falls, every agreement he made dies with it. Every protection he offered evaporates, including yours. Derek's in prison. Derek has cousins, brothers, friends. And once the word spreads that Adrian Russo's protection is worthless, they'll come for you. For Noah. To finish what Derek started. No, this couldn't be happening." "I can't do this," Lena said, backing away. I don't know anything about running a criminal empire. I wouldn't even know where to start." "You don't have to run it. We do that. You just have to be visible. Remind people that touching you means dealing with Adrian when he gets out. 25 years is a long time, but it's not forever. The families remember. They plan long term." "This is crazy. This is reality." Marcus's voice hardened. "You think you can just walk away? Build a nice normal life? They won't let you. You're Adrian Russo's weakness now. Every family in this city knows it. The only question is whether you use that to protect yourself or whether you become a target." Lena's mind raced. This couldn't be real. She couldn't actually be standing in a warehouse at 9 p.m. being recruited to run a criminal organization. But she was. And Marcus was right. She'd painted a target on her back the moment she testified, shown the world that she mattered to Adrian, that hurting her would hurt him. "I need time to think," she said. "You have 48 hours." Marcus's expression softened slightly. I know this isn't what you wanted, isn't the life you chose, but it's the life you have now, and I'm trying to give you a way to survive it. Lena drove home in a daze, Marcus's words echoing in her head. When she got back, Noah was asleep on the couch, Mrs. Chen dozing in the armchair nearby. Lena thanked her quietly and paid her extra, then carried Noah to his bed. He stirred as she tucked him in. Did you see Dad? No, baby, just some people who knew him. Is he coming home? The question shattered her. Not for a long time, Lena whispered. I'm sorry. Noah's face crumpled. I miss him. I know. I miss him too. She held Noah until he fell back asleep, then retreated to her own room. The letter from Adrian was still in her nightstand drawer. She pulled it out, reading his words again. Live loud and bright and free. But how could she do that when the world wouldn't let them? How could she be free when every choice led back to violence and danger and impossible decisions? Lena stared at her ceiling until dawn, weighing her options. She could run, take Noah and disappear. Change their names, move across the country, start over completely. But Adrian had tried that approach with her and Derek. It hadn't worked. People like the families Marcus mentioned had resources, connections, patience. They would find her eventually. She could go to the police, ask for protection, witness protection maybe. But what would she tell them? That she was being recruited to run a criminal empire? They'd either laugh her out of the station or use it as leverage to make her testify against Adrian's associates. Either way, she'd be signing her own death warrant, or she could do what Marcus suggested. Step into Adrian's shadow. Use his name as a shield until Noah was grown and safe. 25 years. That's how long she'd need to hold on. 25 years until Adrian came up for parole. Until there was a chance, however slim, of him coming home. Could she do it? Could she become the kind of person who commanded respect through fear? Who made decisions that kept criminal enterprises running? Could she become what Adrian had been? The thought terrified her, but the alternative, watching Noah get hurt because she wasn't strong enough to protect him, terrified her more. As the sun rose, painting her room in shades of gold and pink, Lena made her decision. She picked up her phone and texted Marcus. I'm in. But we do this my way. No unnecessary violence, no drugs, no human trafficking. We run the legitimate businesses and use the reputation to keep us safe. That's the deal. The response came immediately. Mr. Russo would be proud. Meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m., same location. We'll discuss terms. Lena set down her phone and looked at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman staring back. Hair tangled from a sleepless night. Eyes haunted by impossible choices. Shoulders squared against a weight she'd never asked to carry. But she was still standing, still fighting, still refusing to break. For Noah, for Adrian, for the future she was determined to give them, even if it cost her everything. The war was just beginning, and Lena Carter had just enlisted. The meeting room Marcus had chosen was nothing like Adrian's elegant office at the estate. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights that flickered and buzzed, a metal table scarred with years of use. This was the real world of Adrian's empire, stripped of pretense, functional, cold. Lena sat at the head of the table because Marcus had insisted. The 6 men from the warehouse were there, plus 3 others she didn't recognize. All of them watched her with varying degrees of skepticism. She didn't blame them. She looked like what she was, a 28-year-old woman in jeans and a sweater who'd stumbled into this world by accident. Not someone who commanded respect, not someone who could fill Adrian Russo's shoes. But she was all they had. Gentlemen, Marcus said, standing beside her chair like a sentinel, you all know why we're here. Mr. Russo is gone for the foreseeable future. His territory is vulnerable. The Castellanos are already making moves on the waterfront. The Bratva is pushing into the construction contracts. We need to send a message that Adrian Russo's interests are still protected. By her? One of the men, Carlo's replacement, a thick-necked enforcer named Vincent, jerked his chin toward Lena. No offense, lady, but you're not exactly intimidating. No, Lena agreed quietly. I'm not. But I'm also the woman Adrian Russo loved enough to go to prison for. The woman who testified on his behalf in open court. Every family in this city saw that. They know I matter to him. So what? Vincent leaned back, arms crossed. That makes you a target, not a leader. It makes me both.
Lena stood, forcing her voice to stay steady even though her legs were shaking. You're right that I don't know how to run this organization. I'm not a criminal. I'm not a strategist. I'm just someone trying to protect her family. She looked around the table, meeting each man's eyes. But that's exactly why this works. I'm not trying to take over. I'm not trying to build my own empire. I'm just holding Adrian's place until he comes home. And every family out there knows that if they touch me, if they touch Noah, they're not just dealing with you. They're dealing with Adrian's fury when he gets out.
That's 25 years away, another man said. Maybe more. You expect us to wait that long? I expect you to use that time wisely. Lena's voice hardened. We consolidate the legitimate businesses. We distance ourselves from anything that could bring federal attention. We build something sustainable that Adrian can come home to, something worth having. And in the meantime, Vincent pressed, when the Castellanos push, when the Bratva demands tribute, what do we do then? Lena looked at Marcus, who nodded slightly. Permission to speak the hard truth. We defend what's ours, she said, but we do it smart. We don't start wars we can't win. We don't leave evidence. We don't give the feds any reason to keep digging. She paused. Adrian's mistake was being too visible, too aggressive. We won't make that mistake. The room was silent for a long moment. Then an older man at the far end of the table, Giuseppe, Marcus had said his name was, spoke up. The Castellanos took 3 of our trucking contracts last week, threatened the drivers, said Adrian's protection didn't mean anything anymore. What would you do about that? This was a test. Lena knew it. Say nothing and look weak. Suggest violence and prove she was out of her depth. She needed a third option. I talked to them, she said, face to face. Remind them that contracts work both ways. They want our business. They negotiate fairly. They want war. She let the sentence hang. They should remember that Adrian Russo has a long memory and a lot of patience. 25 years gives him plenty of time to plan revenge. Giuseppe's weathered face cracked into something almost like a smile. You've got spine. I'll give you that. So we're doing this? Vincent still sounded skeptical. We're following a civilian? You're following Mr. Russo's wishes, Marcus said firmly. He wanted Miss Carter protected at all costs. This is how we do that. By making her untouchable. By showing the world that she speaks with his authority. One by one, the men at the table nodded. Some reluctant, some curious, but all of them agreeing. Lena had just become the figurehead of a criminal empire. The next 3 months were a crash course in a world Lena had never wanted to understand. She learned the organizational structure, who reported to whom, which operations generated income, which ones carried the most risk. She learned the politics, which families could be negotiated with, which ones respected only strength, which ones were actively hostile. She learned to read people, to see the lies behind polite words, to recognize when someone was testing her and when they were genuinely seeking guidance. And slowly, impossibly, she learned to lead. It started small. A dispute between 2 warehouse managers that Marcus brought to her attention. Lena listened to both sides, identified the real issue beneath the surface conflict, and brokered a compromise that left both men satisfied. Word spread. More disputes came to her. More decisions that needed making. Lena handled each one the same way. By listening, by being fair, by remembering that these were people with lives and families and fears just like hers. She wasn't Adrian. She couldn't inspire fear with a look or command loyalty through force. But she could be honest. She could be consistent. She could show them that under her watch the organization would be stable even if it wasn't powerful. It was enough. The first real test came on a Tuesday afternoon. Marcus brought news that the Castellano family wanted a meeting. Their underboss, a man named Sal Torino, had requested a sit-down with the woman who speaks for Russo. It's a power play, Marcus said. They want to see you in person, size you up, figure out if you're really a threat or just a convenient fiction. Lena's stomach churned. Do I have a choice? You always have a choice, but refusing will look like weakness. No. She'd come too far to back down now. The meeting was set for neutral ground, a restaurant in Little Italy that had been serving as a meeting place for families for 3 generations. The owner knew to stay quiet and stay out of the way. Lena dressed carefully that morning, not too formal, not too casual. She needed to look like someone worth taking seriously without trying too hard. In the end, she chose dark slacks, a fitted blazer, and the one piece of jewelry Adrian had given her, a simple silver necklace she'd found in her things after the estate was seized, tucked away in a pocket she'd forgotten to check. Marcus drove her, with two other men following in a second car. Security, though Lena suspected it was more to maintain appearances than because Marcus actually thought the Castellanos would try something at a public meeting. The restaurant was small, tucked between a bakery and a dry cleaner. Inside, the lights were dim and most of the tables were empty except for one in the back corner. Sal Torino sat there with three men flanking him. He was in his 50s, gray at the temples, with the kind of face that had seen violence and learned to appreciate subtlety instead. When Lena approached, he stood and offered his hand. "Miss Carter, thank you for meeting with me." His handshake was firm but not aggressive. Testing, always testing. "Mr. Torino." Lena sat across from him, Marcus taking the seat beside her. "I understand you have concerns about our business relationship." "Concerns?" Torino smiled thinly. "That's diplomatic." "Yes, we have concerns. Adrian Russo is in prison. His empire is leaderless. Yet we're told we should continue honoring agreements as if nothing has changed." "Nothing fundamental has changed," Lena said. "The agreements you made with Adrian were based on mutual benefit. Those benefits still exist. Do they?" Torino leaned forward, because from where I'm sitting, the benefits were Adrian's reputation, his ability to enforce agreements, his willingness to make problems disappear. His eyes were cold. "Tell me, Miss Carter, can you make problems disappear?" The question hung in the air like a knife. Lena met his gaze without flinching. "I don't need to make problems disappear, Mr. Torino. I just need to make it clear that creating problems for me creates problems for you." "That sounds like a threat." "It's a statement of fact." Lena kept her voice level. "You move against Adrian's interests, you're betting that he won't remember in 25 years, that he won't have the resources or will to respond when he gets out. Are you willing to make that bet?" Torino's expression didn't change. 25 years is a long time. He might not survive prison, might die before he sees freedom again. "He might," Lena agreed, "but do you want to gamble your family's future on that? Because if he does survive, if he does get out, what do you think his first priority will be?" The silence stretched taut. Then Torino laughed, a short, sharp bark of sound. "You've got balls, I'll give you that. Coming in here threatening me with a ghost." "Not threatening, reminding." Lena leaned back. "You honored agreements with Adrian because it was profitable and safe. Both of those things are still true. The trucking contracts work because we have the infrastructure and the connections. Taking them by force just costs you money rebuilding what already exists. Unless we think we can do it better. Can you?" Lena tilted her head. "Because from what I understand, your family's strength is in gambling and loan sharking. Logistics isn't your specialty. You take our contracts, you'll spend 6 months learning what we already know. 6 months of lost revenue, angry clients, and exposure to law enforcement because you're doing everything the hard way." She paused. "Or you can maintain the status quo. Keep the profits flowing, keep the peace. And in 25 years when Adrian walks out of prison, you can shake his hand and say, you honored your word." Torino studied her for a long moment. Then he glanced at Marcus. "She always this sharp?" "When she needs to be," Marcus said neutrally. "All right." Torino sat back. "The contracts stay. For now. But understand something, Miss Carter. This isn't fear of Adrian Russo. This is practicality, business sense. The moment it becomes more profitable to take what's yours than to honor agreements, the math changes." "I understand." Lena stood, extending her hand again. "Thank you for your time." His handshake was firmer this time, respectful. As Lena walked out of the restaurant, her legs nearly gave out from relief. She'd done it. She'd faced down a real criminal and held her ground. "That went better than expected," Marcus said once they were in the car. "He was testing me." "And you passed." Marcus pulled into traffic. "Word will spread. The Castellanos respect you enough to negotiate. Other families will take notice." Lena leaned her head against the window, watching the city pass by. This was her life now. Negotiations with criminals. Threats disguised as conversation. The constant calculus of power and respect. She hated it, but she was good at it. 6 months became a year. The year became 2. Lena settled into a routine that would have horrified her old self, the waitress who just wanted to survive, to give Noah a normal life. But normal was a luxury they couldn't afford. Noah was 10 now.
Growing tall, growing confident, the selective mutism had faded almost completely, replaced by a bright, talkative boy who loved art and basketball and asked too many questions about things Lena couldn't always answer, like why they had bodyguards, why men in expensive suits came to the house for meetings, why his aunt seemed to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders.
Lena tried to shield him from the truth, tried to give him as much normalcy as possible, but Noah was smart. Too smart. He'd figured out more than she wanted him to know. "Is this because of Dad?" he asked one night after she'd sent away another visitor. "Are you doing this for him?" Lena wanted to lie. Yes. Noah was quiet for a moment. "Do you think he'd want you to?" The question cut deep. "I don't know, baby. Probably not, but it's keeping us safe. That's what matters."
"Are we safe? Really?" Noah's dark eyes, so much like Sarah's, searched her face. "Or are we just pretending?" Lena pulled him close. "We're as safe as I can make us, and I'm going to keep us that way until your dad comes home." "And then what?" "Then we figure out the rest together." It was the best answer she had. The collapse started small.
Vincent disappeared one Tuesday, just didn't show up for a scheduled meeting. Marcus sent people looking, but they found nothing. No body, no trace, no explanation. 2 weeks later, one of their legitimate businesses, a restaurant supply company, was raided by the FBI. They didn't find anything incriminating, but the message was clear. Someone was watching. Then Giuseppe was arrested on a weapons charge that should have been easy to beat. But when his lawyer showed up to arrange bail, the prosecutor had evidence Giuseppe swore didn't exist. Photos of him meeting with known felons. Recordings of conversations about illegal activities. Someone had turned informant. Marcus called an emergency meeting. The mood in the room was tense, paranoid. Men who'd worked together for years now looked at each other with suspicion. "We have a leak," Marcus said without preamble. "Someone's feeding information to the feds, someone in this room or close to it." The accusations started immediately. Old grievances surfaced, suspicions were voiced. The organization was eating itself from the inside. Lena watched it happen with a sinking heart. This was how it ended. Not with violence or a dramatic confrontation, but with paranoia and betrayal and the slow disintegration of trust. "Enough," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. The room fell silent. "This is what they want," Lena continued. "Whoever's doing this, they want us turning on each other, destroying ourselves so they don't have to." She looked around the table. "So here's what we're going to do. We're going to lock down operations. No new business, no risky moves. We run clean and quiet until we identify the leak." "And if we can't identify them?" someone asked. "Then we assume everyone is compromised and act accordingly." Lena's voice was hard. "No one person has access to everything. No one makes major decisions alone. We compartmentalize until we're secure again." It was the right call, but it felt like defeat. Locking down meant lost revenue, meant showing weakness to the other families, meant Adrian's empire shrinking further, but it was better than destruction. The truth came out 3 weeks later. Marcus arrived at the house late one night, his face grave. "We found the informant." Lena's heart sank. "Who?" "Antonio. Giuseppe's nephew." Marcus sat heavily. "The feds flipped him 6 months ago, threatened to charge his sister with accessory to his crimes unless he cooperated. He's been feeding them information ever since." "Antonio." A young kid, barely 25, who'd grown up in the organization. Lena had liked him. He'd been polite, respectful, hardworking. "Where is he now?" "Protective custody. The feds moved him yesterday when they realized we were closing in." Marcus's expression was grim. "He gave them everything, Lena. Names, operations, financial records. They're building a RICO case against everyone who's still active." The air left Lena's lungs in a rush. RICO, the Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. The same charges that had put Adrian away. "How long do we have?" "Weeks. Maybe less." Marcus met her eyes. "You need to get out. Take Noah and disappear. I can arrange new identities. Move you somewhere they'll never look. No. The word came out harder than Lena intended. I'm not running. Lena. I said no. She stood, pacing. Running makes us look guilty. Makes it look like we have something to hide. We do have something to hide.
Not me. Lena turned to face him. I've been careful, Marcus. Everything I've done has been above board. Legitimate business decisions, legal negotiations. I haven't touched anything criminal. You've been running Adrian's organization?
I've been managing his legal holdings, making sure his legitimate businesses stayed operational. There's a difference. Lena's mind raced. Antonio can tell them whatever he wants about the others, but he doesn't have anything on me because there's nothing to find. Marcus stared at her. You planned this. From the beginning. I planned to survive. Lena's voice was quiet. I planned to protect Noah, and I knew the only way to do that was to stay clean. So yes, I've been very careful about what I touched and what I stayed away from. The others won't have that protection. I know. It was the hardest part. The men who'd followed her, who'd trusted her to lead, they would pay the price. But they made their choices long before I came along. I can't save them, Marcus. I can only save us. The raids came 2 weeks later. FBI agents swept through every business, every property, every known associate. Arrests were made, evidence was seized, lives were destroyed. Lena watched it on the news from her living room, Noah beside her on the couch. The reporters called it the largest organized crime bust in the city's history. They showed perp walks, read charges, speculated about the extent of the corruption, and through it all, Lena waited for them to come for her. They never did. Instead, she got a visitor, a federal prosecutor, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She showed up at the house with 2 agents, flashed her credentials, and asked politely if they could talk. Lena sent Noah to his room and invited them in. Miss Carter, I'm Assistant U.S. Attorney Karen Webb. I'm leading the investigation into Adrian Russo's criminal organization. All right, Lena said carefully. How can I help you? You've been managing Mr. Russo's business interests since his incarceration. We'd like to understand the extent of your involvement. This was it. The moment Lena had been preparing for. I've been managing his legitimate holdings, yes. The restaurant supply company, the construction firm, the real estate properties, all of which are legal businesses paying taxes and operating within the law. And his illegal operations? I wouldn't know anything about those. Lena kept her voice steady. Mr. Russo kept me separate from that side of his life. I only dealt with the legitimate businesses. Webb studied her. You expect me to believe that? You were living with him, raising a child in his home, and you had no idea he was running a criminal empire? I knew what he was accused of, what he was convicted of. Lena met her gaze. But he never involved me in those activities, never asked me to participate, never gave me access to information about illegal operations. Convenient. True. Lena leaned forward. Ms. Webb, I'm a waitress who happened to be in the wrong place at the right time. Adrian Russo saved my life. He protected me and my nephew. And yes, I cared about him. But I'm not a criminal. I've never been a criminal. Everything I've done in the last 2 years has been legal and documented. Then you won't mind if we audit those businesses, examine the records? Not at all. I have nothing to hide. Webb's expression was skeptical, but she nodded. We'll be in touch, Miss Carter. Don't leave town. After they left, Lena sat in the silence of her living room and shook. She'd done it. She'd faced them down without breaking, without giving them anything they could use. But the cost. The men who'd followed her, who were now facing decades in prison, that weight would never leave her. The audit took 3 months. Federal accountants combed through every transaction, every contract, every decision Lena had made. They were looking for any connection to illegal activity, any evidence that she'd been more than just a figurehead. They found nothing, because there was nothing to find. Lena had been meticulous, paranoid even, about staying clean. Every business decision had been legitimate. Every contract had been legal. She'd refused to touch anything that could be traced back to criminal activity. It had been the right call. The charges against her were quietly dropped. The federal prosecutor moved on to bigger targets, more provable crimes. Lena was free, but the organization was destroyed. The men who'd followed her were facing decades in prison. Adrian's empire had been dismantled piece by piece, and Lena was left standing in the wreckage, wondering if it had all been worth it.
5 years passed. Noah turned 15, tall and lanky, with his father's eyes and his mother's smile. He played basketball at his high school, made friends easily, talked about college like it was a given. He was normal, happy, safe. It was everything Lena had fought for. But at night, when the house was quiet and Noah was asleep, Lena still felt the weight of those 2 years, still saw the faces of men who'd trusted her, still heard the echo of decisions that had saved her family but destroyed others. She'd done what she had to do, chosen survival over loyalty, protected Noah at any cost, and she'd live with that choice for the rest of her life. The letter from Adrian's lawyer came on a Tuesday morning. Lena recognized the return address immediately, the law firm that had represented him. Her hand shook as she opened it. "Miss Carter, I'm writing to inform you that Adrian Russo has been granted early parole. Due to good behavior and overcrowding in the federal system, his sentence has been reduced. He will be released in 6 months. Mr. Russo has asked me to contact you with this information and to relay a message. He understands if you've moved on. He expects nothing, but if you're willing, he would very much like to see you and Noah when he's released. Please contact this office if you wish to arrange a meeting." 6 months. After 7 years, Adrian was coming home. Lena sat at her kitchen table, the letter trembling in her hands, and tried to process what this meant. Noah was 15 now. He barely remembered the details of living at the estate, though he talked about Adrian, Dad, with a reverence born of fragmentary memories and Lena's stories. Would Adrian even recognize the boy he'd known, the man Noah had become? Would Adrian recognize her? Lena had changed so much in 7 years, had become someone she barely recognized herself, harder, wiser, capable of making choices that would have horrified her younger self. She'd run a criminal empire, even if briefly, had made decisions that destroyed lives, had chosen survival over morality and learned to live with that choice. Was that the person Adrian wanted to come home to? "Mom?" Noah appeared in the doorway. He'd started calling her that 2 years ago, said Aunt Lena felt too formal for what she was to him. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Not a ghost." Lena handed him the letter. "Read this." She watched Noah's face as he read, watched the emotions play across his features. Shock, hope, fear, excitement. "Dad's coming home," he whispered. "In 6 months." Noah looked up, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "Are we going to see him? Do you want to?" "Are you kidding? Of course I want to." Noah's voice rose. "He's my dad. I've been waiting 7 years for this." Lena pulled him into a hug, feeling him shake against her. "Then we'll see him. We'll be there when he gets out. Do you think he'll remember us? Really remember us, not just in his head, but like in his heart?" "Baby, I don't think he's forgotten us for a single day." The 6 months crawled by in a strange mixture